The call to order of the Boynton Beach Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting today, Tuesday, September 8th, 2020 at 6:23 p.m. Would anyone from the City Commission like to provide an invocation? Hearing none, we will move on to roll call. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Chairman Stephen B. Grant.
Present.
Vice Chair Ty Penserga.
Here.
Board Member Justin Katz.
Here.
Board Member Christina Romulus.
Present.
Board Member Woodrow Hay. He's there. We have a quorum.
Thank you.
Okay. You're
John,
welcome.
do you need to make another announcement?
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Mayor Grant, I will. Hello and welcome. My name is John McNally, and I will be providing assistance to the board chair and its members during today's meeting. Before we start, I'd like to review a few housekeeping items so the public audience knows how to participate. Your microphones have been muted to reduce background noise during this public meeting. There will be specific times during this meeting when members of the public can ask questions and provide feedback. The first way is by typing their question into the questions section at the bottom of the GoToWebinar interface. Those items will be read into the record by a meeting organizer at the appropriate time. Please be sure to include your name for the record. The second way is by using the GoToWebinar interface and clicking on the raise hand option. A meeting organizer will announce the speaker and unmute their audio, at which time the speaker should state their name for the record. Before speaking, please take steps to minimize any sources of background noise and speak clearly into your device during your allotted time. I will now turn control over to Board Chair Stephen Grant, who will be presiding over today's meeting.
All right. Thank you very much, John. We'll move on to agenda approval. Any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Second.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to legal. Tara, from Lewis, Longman, and Walker, you have two items. Ho versus City of Boynton Beach.
Yes, so on September, this is just to make the board aware that the CRA was served with a complaint that was filed in the United States District Court by Wing and Karen Ho. The complaint names, among other parties, the City of Boynton Beach, the CRA, the City of Boynton Beach Building Department, and alleges a number of allegations under Section 28 of the United States Code, Section 1983. Our answer will be due to the complaint on September 15th. My firm has analyzed the complaint and will likely be filing a motion to dismiss in lieu of an answer, as the allegations in the complaint are directed at actions taken by the city and not the CRA. So with that, I would happily answer any other questions. And if you would like, as we move forward with this, should it get past the answer and motion to dismiss stage, we can certainly schedule a shade session. On another note, we are coordinating with the city attorney on our defense of this action. So I just wanted to make you all aware that that had been filed, and we are in a position to be filing a responsive pleading by September 15th on your behalf.
Thank you, Tara. I know that we, as the CRA board, had an opportunity to buy this property for $140,000. We filed a counteroffer of $120,000, which the Ho's declined. Is it possible for the CRA to see if we have another opportunity to purchase, at what price, to end all litigation?
This complaint doesn't really get into that per se. It's more about actions taken with regards to the code enforcement of the property. I certainly, Mike, at the appropriate time, can reach out to them, perhaps once we've been dismissed from the case, which I would be hopeful that that would occur. and see if they're still interested in selling. I'm not sure that they are, but I would want to be very careful about how we proceed with that in terms of the pending litigation. So I can reflect that to our litigators and see what their thoughts are. But at this point, until the litigation sort of hits a different tone, I think we should refrain from that type of behavior.
Well, it's the aspect of it is we're both represented. I know that our executive director should not speak to the host for that information. That's why I'm asking, I'll ask the CRA board if they are interested in purchasing it instead of going through litigation and to see if the hosts have a price. So does the CRA board want to move forward with trying to purchase it and end the litigation as we've done in other eminent domain cases that the city has been involved in? Or do we want to see how this plays out in federal court?
Mayor?
Mayor, if staff and legal advise that this is a direction to at least investigate and see if it's an option, then I'm open to that. But again, at this point, when we're talking legal, I'd rather take legal's advice rather than trying to, make up our own things.
And I concur.
Okay.
What I would recommend is that we do have, because litigation has been filed, it sounds like further discussion is warranted on this case. So perhaps we can schedule a shade session in advance of our October meeting. The answer will be due on September 15th. I don't think that's enough time to take any settlement offers. So let's, if the board directs me to, staff and I can schedule a shade session immediately in advance of next month's CRA board meeting to discuss options moving forward with the litigation and get a little bit more detailed. And for those of you who are, for the members of the public, a shade session is because there's ongoing litigation, we can meet without the public being in attendance during the pendency of litigation. Once the litigation concludes, all meeting records for shade sessions become public records, but they wouldn't be open to the public at this time given the pendency of litigation.
All right, so I'm not necessarily in favor of a shade session as of yet because of the aspect of the CRA with this federal complaint. We'll see further down the road if we're dropped or not dropped. So
Okay.
unless someone makes a motion, we won't have a shade session.
Well, this is just in response to your request. So if this is the route that you want to investigate in terms of trying to see if there's a settlement offer, then I would be in favor of doing the shade session. If we're not going to go that route, then there's no need for the shade session.
Yeah, I'm just requesting if our legal counsel can get an offer to end it. After
I don't advise that could happen before September 15th.
I don't think so either. And so I'm saying we file the answer and then ask for the offer, because that's, it's kind of without you having to argue the motion to dismiss, we can hopefully end the litigation. The city can get the property, or we can move forward with the city can move forward with its foreclosure complaint. The CRA can spend the money to defend itself, and the city can spend the money to defend itself.
And the allegations in the complaint are numerous with regard to the actions of the city. So for the benefit of further discussions, I would advise, if we're going to have any discussions about settlement at the point that we want to do that we do schedule a shade session. So if it's not in October, if that's premature, we can certainly, I will let you know in October if I think it's warranted, when I think that would be warranted.
Thank you.
I'm fine with that as well.
All right. Our next item is consideration of revisions to the CRA letter of intent to purchase property policy.
Yes. So as you are aware, as the agendas for many of our past meetings have shown, there's a lot of interest in CRA-owned property from the market and individuals in the public that are sending us unsolicited letters of intent. In providing guidance to those individuals on how to proceed up into the public hearing where we discuss those, it became clear to staff and myself that we could add a little bit of clarity to our existing policy. So what I have done is taken where we started and added some additional detail regarding the procedure that occurs as soon as we get a letter of intent in the door. So if you would bear with me, I'd walk you through the steps, and you can ask me questions or give me direction as to any questions you may have with regard to the policy. So recall that letters of intent are unsolicited and are not governed by the rules and regulations that govern when we issue a request for proposal. Nonetheless, for the benefit of the public, the CRA, and everyone, it makes a lot of sense for us to have a clear policy on how to address these issues when they come up, especially when we have more than one letter submitted for the same property in a relatively short period of time, which I believe we have that occurrence later on in the agenda tonight. So basically what this provides is that as soon as a letter of intent is received, staff will place it on the next available regularly scheduled CRA board meeting. So that means whichever board meeting is able to meet its agenda deadlines for presentation to you. We will receive as much information from the submitter as they wish to provide to the CRA up until the agenda deadline. If after the agenda deadline, the submitter wants to provide additional information, we will direct them to attend the meeting that it's being scheduled to be heard at to present to you in person or virtually, as the case may be. And Mike and I have talked about the fact we'll need to deal with that hiccup as we move forward. The same process would apply where we get more than one letter of intent for the same property. So in the instance we have today, that on the agenda before us today, 2 letters of intent were submitted for the same property. We have advised those individuals that when asked, that they may submit information to us, staff, to provide to you an agenda backup up until the deadline for the agenda. After that point, we've advised that they can make comments to you in public hearing with any additional information they wish to provide. So an important aspect that I'm proposing to add to the policy is with regard to how we manage discussions of the letters of intent once they're before you, especially where there's more than one. So what I am proposing are 3 separate options, as you will be able to see if you pull up your backup. So what I'm proposing is that if you have more than, and this is really important for when you have more than one, but it still applies if you only have a single letter of intent. Your options are basically 3. The first one is you decide to select and move forward with negotiation of a purchase and development agreement with the submitter of the letter of intent, if there's only one. And if there are more than one, you select one and you say, today I would like to move forward with this particular letter of intent. Staff, please go publish notice, the required public notice that we intend to dispose, and begin negotiations. The second option, and there's a little bit more detail after you make a selection of each option, but I want to kind of broadly lay out the options. And Mike, if I start making this too confusing, you step right in and clear me up. The second option would be if you have questions that you would like to ask the person or the submitter of the letter of intent, you would direct staff to go ahead and publish notice of intent to dispose of the property, while at the same time asking one or all of the submitters various questions that you'd like to have answered. During that time, the notice of intent to dispose would be published, and after that had expired, we would bring back responses received to any questions you had from the one or multiple submitters. This is basically saying that the board is going to refrain from negotiating with the individual submitters from the dais, because that can get a little complicated when you have multiple letters of intent and you want to be fair to all of them and to avoid there being chaos basically at the podium. The third option, it remains directing staff to go forward and issue a request for proposal. That would apply if you had a specific vision for the particular properties that have been sought after by the letters of intent. It's different than a letter of intent because the letter of intent process is allowing the market to approach you with their ideas for property, or the RFP is you setting forth provisions about how you'd like the property to be used. So that's the third option, which is always available. So once you decide at your meeting to do either go with one letter of intent directly or ask questions of the submitters, the notice to dispose will be published. It is conceivable that you will get yet another letter of intent during that publication period. If that occurs, the board staff will follow the same process, provide you with the information, and at the meeting where you either determine to move forward with a purchase and development agreement with one of the chosen submitters or receive information to questions that you had asked us to pose to the submitters, we would let you know that that additional letter was submitted, and we would you could at that time choose to move forward with that submitter instead. Sorry, I got something in my throat today. So that's a little bit of confusion. I'm going to take a breath and let Mike offer any clarity that I may have left behind or answer any of your questions.
I think you did a great job, Tim. Very clear.
Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
So some of this sounds like some things I've been thinking about since our last meeting, and tell me if it goes as far as what I'm about to say or if we would need to add to this. So my concern in reflecting on last meeting and a letter of intent that was brought forward was that there was backup material and a presentation made sight unseen basically to the public. And my reflection on that process personally is I would like future letters of intent when initially brought to us the first time on an agenda, not to include backup, and for there to be this 30-day delay built in so that it's not something that we're voting on at that meeting. Like, I don't know how to go about it. I'm not the lawyer, but my personal opinion, because some of these unsolicited offers can be projects that people never envisioned, never heard about, never thought about. And I don't like the position that we were put in last meeting where, that I feel like there needs to be a cool down period where when the letter's brought to us, we have a 30-day window where, now the public knows somebody wants to build something, someone wants to do something. So again, I don't know if your language goes far enough in your recommendations or what else could be added, but I would like personally, and if the board supported it, to pursue some sort of 30-day cool down where when someone submits a letter, it's presented to us, but we don't take any action for 30 days. Because again, these are unsolicited bids basically. So it's not as if we're planning something and there's time sensitivity, in the interest of the public and careful deliberation. That's what I would like to see if it's possible. So
what we could do is, the policy does not call for that right now. What it calls for right now, it would be the first step. Right now, if the CRA staff receives an unsolicited letter of intent, we schedule it to bring it forward to you for your consideration at the next available board meeting. What we could do, if it's the will of the board, is amend that to say, upon receipt of a letter of intent, CRA staff will publish a notice of intent to dispose of the property and bring forward the submitted letter of intent and any other offers received after expiration of that 30-day period. That would simplify some of this. Everything else would apply, but that would put the notice as it stands. We bring it to you and you let us know if you are interested at all in disposing of the property, after which we would publish the notice. So we could put that as the first step if that is the will of the board. That's how we would address that concern.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sarah, couldn't the CRA board just table a letter of intent if they didn't want to vote on it at that night?
Yes,
So anytime the CRA board gets a letter of intent, if they don't want to vote on it, they don't have to vote on it, correct?
correct. It would extend the time period, but it would then, if you had us put it on the agenda, we would still be obtaining a bunch of information from the submitter potentially and adding it to the agenda, and they would still be submitting information, and it would elongate the time period to make a decision. So it could be that you received it, tomorrow, right after our meeting, we could receive a letter of intent. It would wait that period of time, come before you, then we would publish the 30-day notice, but that is certainly an option as well. Always an option for the board to table an item.
Chair,
Yes.
I just want to try to piece together what I'm hearing from Commissioner or Board Member Katz and then also from Attorney Dewey. So based on what you said, if the letter of intent is not received in time for publishing, it will be held anyway until the upcoming or following CRA meeting, correct?
Correct.
So I think in a way that already kind of solves the 30-day problem in terms of if they don't get it to us prior to the initial CRA board meeting or the CRA board meeting that's coming up in time for publishing, it would still have to wait until the next board meeting anyway. I think in terms of the other issue that Board Member Katz addressed with the presentation that happened and it didn't, the members of the public didn't have a chance to see it. I don't think that would solve that problem because it's not like the public gets to see what we see on the backup. Am I correct on that, in that thought process?
Well, the one thing, if we were to, upon receipt of a notice of intent, if staff was to publish notice of intent to dispose, the public would be notified that there is interest in the property, and they could request, because the difference between this is an important distinction, and I've put it in the policy to make it clear to the public. Letters of intent and all the documentation submitted to us is public records, and it's available to the general public, unlike when we do a request for proposals, and there's a period of time when that information is not to be disclosed because these are unsolicited. So I think the only difference between what the mayor's proposition was in terms of bringing it directly to the board and then publishing notice versus publishing notice immediately is that there is some notice to the public of interest, that somebody has interest in the property, or at least that the CRA is intending to dispose of it. And if they wanted to know more details, they could do a public records request. But that, I think, is the biggest distinction between what the mayor was discussing and as the policy is currently written versus what Board Member Katz was discussing.
And so I know that the state requires at least 30 days, but could our policy require 60 or 90 days once we get a letter of intent?
I wouldn't recommend that be your policy. You can always add more time, or to be honest, I think if you were going to add more time, I would do a request. I would recommend doing a request for proposal because it gives more parameters and does have that shielding period of time and gives a little bit more certainty to the process rather than an elongated notice of intent. So that is still an option here to do, and I would recommend doing or RFP if you were going to go longer than the statutory 30 days.
Chair.
Yes.
My input with the RFP process is simply that I feel I would still like to let the market at least have some freedom in saying what they see is possible rather than the other way around where we are dictating what is to be built on a property when perhaps there's maybe other areas or other things that we didn't think of that maybe the market might bring to us and help us kind of think a little further outside the box. So I don't want to try to stop or dismiss the LOI route because I still think it gives us ideas and makes us think things. I'm not really sure how to I guess, approach this. But I think, in my opinion, I'm okay with what's being proposed from Attorney Dewey at this point in time, in terms of if they make it before publishing, they can come on the upcoming agenda. If not, then they wait till the next agenda. I think that's fair and that's allowable. And in terms of disposing of the property, to announce that as soon as we receive an LOI, what does that look like? Does that affect us in any way? Does that, what does that do when we publish that? Because if that's the way that we just let everybody know that there's interest and there's conversation being had on this property, then I'm fine with going that route too, because again, at least that would publicize what's going on and that there's interest and conversation being had around a certain property.
So I think the only consideration really on whether you do it immediately and then wait until after the expiration, or bring it to you and then publish notice immediately after, is you may get a notice of intent for a piece of property that you have no interest in at all, for whatever the reason may be. So we would have published a notice to dispose when we had no intention of disposing of that particular piece of property. That would be the risk run there, aside from then the delay of 30 days before bringing it to you, if it was 30 days. Either way works under the law. It's purely up to your preference. And I do have one other thing to get direction from you on once we get past this one. I just don't want to forget to do that.
I'm kind of okay with the way that it currently is, where the fact is that we got the presentation on last month. We had the option to approve the letter of intent, we had the option to deny it, and the option to table it. We chose to approve it, and we negotiated, instead of a 60-day, a 90-day. And so the current draft shows that we're not supposed to negotiate the letter of intent. And so I don't want to not have that ability to say, we want a 60-day window versus a 90-day window versus the 30-day minimum window. So I'm fine with the way it currently is, where if we receive another letter of intent, we have the ability to cancel the first letter of intent and go with an RFP, or we don't have to, and we can go with the original letter of intent.
The policy that I am proposing, we can take out the 30-day and have it just issue a notice of intent to dispose without the 30 days, and that leaves it to your discretion to set the period of time if you want to do that. I would recommend adding some of the language that I've added, which doesn't change your current policy, except to make it a little clearer for the public about submittal of data to you, how that works. And really the clarity I added, I think, was for the benefit of those submitting, as well as for you all, because I think this is how we have behaved with letters of intent to date. But we get a lot of questions, and it feels fair from the staff perspective a little more fair to have a policy that reflects how the procedure you already take, rather than our existing policy, which is consistent with this, but lacks a little bit of that detail about how it's actually going to go through the process for those people who want to submit this way. So, we can certainly make some further edits. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to ask the board for a motion to table this item, and that hopefully, Tara, you can discuss us with it on a one-on-one basis and get our ideas, and so that you can collaborate, with, not necessarily collaborate our ideas to a cohesive and succinct policy, rather than giving us all these options now and deciding what's the best way to move forward. So I'll see if the board is willing to do that. Okay.
Mayor.
Yep.
I'm willing to table this just so I can have more time with Tara. I think that would always be beneficial, and we can always revisit this. I don't see any particular rush to making these changes, if any. So I'll make a motion to table this item.
Second.
Thank you.
And
right.
I will be reaching out to each of you to set up a meeting to discuss it in detail, where you guys can give me your feedback, and I can probably walk you through it a little bit more clearly.
Thank you, Tara.
You're welcome.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. All right. Our next item is the Florida Festivals and Events Sensational Awards. Mike, or who do we have presenting on this one?
Tracy Smith Coffee, Marketing and Business Development. Can you hear me?
Tracy, I'm sorry. I was looking at one agenda and I forgot. I skipped over the informational items and disclosures by board members and CRA staff. So,
Okay, I'll be back.
Yeah. So, board member Katz, is there anything you'd like to disclose?
No, nothing at this time.
All right. Board member Hay, are you able to communicate with us?
No, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, great. No disclosures at this time.
All right. Board member Romulus. Okay. Vice Mayor Pensurga.
Thank you, Mayor. I did disclose this before, but I'll disclose it again. I don't remember which agenda item it is here, but regarding the property with WPBR's LOI, I do want to disclose that I have spoken to Sam Avocat about that property, and I have also attended that radio station for various interviews. I just want to make sure the public is aware.
All right, thank you.
Chair?
For me, yes. Board member Romulus.
I think my internet was cutting out earlier. I did have a disclosure. I spoke to Harvey Oyer regarding the 115. No, is that the address? Regarding
Yep.
the property on Federal. So I spoke to Harvey Oyer about that, and I would make the same disclosure about the radio station. I have had multiple interactions with the individuals there. So.
Thank you. For me, I want to really delve deep into the disclosure because I did make comments regarding tax incremental funding and, my opinion that in order to get certain developments built, like 500 Ocean, Costa Costa Marina Village, that we need to help developers to be profitable. And I'll read what I posted on Facebook. It says, I cannot sleep tonight because of the decision of the Boynton Beach City Commission to not consider or hear about the potential community benefits agreement for Boynton Town Square. On Tuesday, September 1st, Commissioners Katz, Romulus, and Vice Mayor Pensurga did not want to create equity in the community. Future tax dollars would have been spent on scholarship fund, community revitalization, extra free parking, workforce housing, and what upsets me the most is the partnership with Habitat for Humanity to offer down payment assistance to first-time home buyers in Boynton Beach. The picture shows the estimated millions of future tax dollars that will not be spent to create a more equitable Boynton Beach. Furthermore, JKM Developers has a permit ready to build the parking garage and have answered final comments to the south residents of Town Square to start construction by the end of 2020. Please share if you would like to spread this information, as most did not know the decisions being made tonight. So that was my comments. I respect the board for not agreeing with me, and that's I hope that you can also respect my comments for not agreeing with you. And that's kind of what I wanted to say, because I've spoken this past week with Sensational Management and was able to tour the Ocean Breeze East site. And I was just so pleased that the board decided to give the developer money so that each unit can have a washer and a dryer. I think that's really, ups the class for the development project that we have. I've spoken to numerous different property owners in the past 2 weeks, starting with the Inn at Boynton Beach, who is looking for assistance to helpfully redevelop their hotel. And, for me, I'd say, yes, we want to use tax incremental funding because the sales tax and the bed tax that derives from hotels is very beneficial. I've spoken with Davis Camelia's attorney for the fact that he has a lot of vacant land and that we are going to have to negotiate with him regarding what we want to do with the deed that we gave him. Do we want to park? Do we want to negotiate to buy the property on the west side of Federal Highway to hopefully include into the 115 North Federal project? I spoke with Art and Francis Dalmeda to see if they would like to join the conversation for a holistic approach of a downtown Boynton Beach, because we have over 10 acres of vacant land now in our downtown, and we have the ability and the option to say we can't change the past, but we can make the future better. And that's where I'm at, is that I'm going to move forward with hopefully having a collaborative session with the private owners of these properties so that we can form a unified Boynton Beach moving forward. In addition, I've spoken with representatives of JKM developers, and I've also had conversations with Harvey Oyer and Christian Oyer and Mr. Islam. So my goal is, to work together for a better Boynton Beach. And those are my disclosures. Tracy, you're up next.
Good evening, board. Tracy Smith Coffee, Marketing and Business Development. I am very excited to present the Florida Festivals and Events Sensational Awards the Boynton Beach CRA received this year. The Florida Festivals and Events Association is a statewide organization of professionals, festivals, and event planners, managers, and marketing from both the private and public sectors. The CRA announced the winners of its 2020 Sensational Awards during their 26th annual convention and trade show held this year virtually on August 25th, 2020. Award nominations were accepted in 9 categories, including print materials, outdoor advertisement, PR, media campaign, photos, promotional items, t-shirts, broadcast media, multimedia marketing, and programming. Each category included 3 budget levels, and a total of 463 entries were submitted. The Boynton Beach CRA submitted 30 entries in the various categories and received 11 sensational awards for the following. For the Boynton Beach Haunted Pirate Fest and Mermaid Splash, we received first place Emergency Action Plan, first place PR and Media Campaign, first place Promotional Mailer Every Door Direct, first place Radio Ad, second place Promotional Item Baseball Cap, second place Billboard, third place Treasure Map, The Tales of Captain Pegleg's Treasure Hunt, third place Event Poster, third place Pirate Television PTV, and for Rock the Marina, we won first place T-shirt and first place Community Outreach Program. Do you have any questions?
Tracy, I'm just so happy that the Rock the Marina Lionfish Derby got first place, and that we can hopefully bring more awareness to that invasive species that's destroying our coral reefs with the fish. So congratulations.
We're very happy. Thank you.
Yes.
This is an amazing job. And how many awards total was it? 11?
11 awards.
That's phenomenal.
That is outstanding.
Thank you.
And so we have one item for the public comment log, a letter for the appreciation of the CRA's commitment to help local businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we're moving on to consent agenda. Does anybody have any items to pull? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
Mayor,
Yes.
perhaps I missed it, but is there not public comments?
Oh, yeah, thank you for, I'm going from one agenda to the other, so thank you. Yes, let's have public comments now. So if anyone would like to speak, I have a first one from Mark Meyer. I've unmuted you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. My name is Mark Meyer. I reside in Coquina Cove, the residential subdivision adjacent to Ocean Palm Plaza, formerly known as Yachtman's Plaza. This comment is in relation to agenda item 10D on the consent agenda. The WaveMax Coin Laundry proposed location is at 1550 North Federal Highway, which is currently zoned IPUD, a residential zoning district, and has a land use designation of special high density residential, making the use prohibited by Boynton Beach land use regulations. Respectfully, I do not believe it is appropriate to approve this grant until the outstanding community standards issues are corrected and the property is appropriately rezoned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Next, we have Tom Warnke. You have the floor.
Good evening. My name is Tom Warnke. I have a comment and a question. First, I'd like to thank the CRA board for providing additional direct financial support related to impacts of the coronavirus for businesses within the CRA. I know those businesses are very thankful. And my question, at the CRA board meeting on May 12th, the city of Boynton Beach made a detailed proposal to the CRA about having the Boynton Beach Recreation and Parks Department assume management of the Historic Women's Club of Boynton Beach. At that meeting, the city they provided a detailed proposal to the CRA, which was unanimously approved by the CRA board to have the city compose an interlocal agreement for approval by the CRA, including the proposed transfer of ownership of the facility from the CRA to the city as recommended by the CRA attorney. Almost 4 months has passed, and this item is listed as a future agenda item in this evening's CRA agenda. So the ball is apparently in the city's court, and this evening the Boynton Beach city manager estimated that this interlocal agreement would be completed by the city during the next 60 days. My question is, what is the process and rough timeline that the CRA would normally follow once this draft interlocal agreement has been received by the CRA?
Michael, do you have an answer for that? Michael, you're muted. Sorry. You can hear yourself. We can't. Looks good now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I was trying to do it on the phone as well, just in case we lost you. So the steps upon receiving the ILA from the city would be to present the conditions of the ILA to the CRA board. One of the things that was mentioned during the presentation was them taking ownership of the building at some future date, which at this point, I do not know what that date is. And if it were a deed over and then the CRA providing funding, I guess the answer would be, Mr. Warnke and CRA board, it ultimately depends on the conditions of the ILA that are presented to the board. And at that time that you review those conditions, if all is in order and their request is to take ownership of the building, let's say immediately or as soon as a transfer could occur, then it could be transferred within a 30-day period. And then the CRA would, the city would then be managing, they'd own the building and they'd be managing it. If that transfer is next fiscal year because of financial reasons or staffing reasons, then while the ILA might be presented and discussed, the transfer of ownership wouldn't occur until the date that's specified in the ILA. So unfortunately, I can't tell you, Tom, when the city is going to take ownership at this point, because I just don't know the answer to that question. But once we find out, it would be very simple for the CRA to transfer ownership.
Okay, thank you, Michael. It sounds as though that city programming might be stifled until ownership is transferred, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
It sounds as though city programming in the facility might be stifled until ownership is transferred. But maybe I'm wrong about that.
I'm so, Tom, I just did not hear that. You broke
I'm
up.
sorry. Is my volume okay?
Yes, it could be my internet.
Okay, well, it sounds as though any city programming that they would like to provide in that facility might be curtailed until ownership is transferred, but I might be wrong about that.
Yes, sir. That would be my understanding as well. Currently, the building is or is assumed once the COVID-19 issue is lessened and the facility can be rented to the public. The CRA will continue to rent the building as we would under normal circumstances until the city took ownership and then inserted, which still wouldn't prevent it from being rented for a wedding, let's say, if they wanted to do something on Tuesday afternoon. But as far as their ability to program the building with the use of the Surf Museum or other types of nonprofit agencies or other types of classes, yes, it would certainly need to be dovetailed into both. And that's why I just don't know where the city is with regard to those specifics.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is anyone from the? All right, we have someone from at the meeting here.
Susan Moyer, 140 Southeast 27th Way. I've been lucky enough to speak with several of you on the board in the last couple of weeks regarding the 115 North Federal project. And I just wanted to remind everyone that these are my opinions, not necessarily the opinions of the rest of my family. We do agree on a lot of things, and in some things we do not. But I wanted to make sure everyone was aware that when I've been speaking with you, I've been speaking about my opinions. So thank you so much for your time.
All right, and now we have a Darius Bardales. You have been unmuted.
Darius Bardales. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Darius Bardales. I'm the owner of BDH Consulting Group, a civil engineering firm and a civil engineering, surveying and mapping and planning. I would like to know if this is the time that I can talk about the 1110 North Federal Highway property, or?
No, but thank you for letting me know that you would like to speak on it. So that is going to be on item F, 14F of old business.
14F, correct.
So we're going to open it up at that time.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
All right, I don't see anyone else with their hand raised or a question mark. Moving on to, now we're moving on to consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull any of the items?
Mayor.
Yes.
I don't need to pull an item. I just had a question regarding the comment that was made earlier about waived max. When somebody submits an application, and perhaps this question is for staff, when somebody submits an application, are these type of things that were brought up from the resident, are those not checked by default? Zoning and such? I mean, how would they get their BTRs and all of that? I would assume
Yes,
that
sir.
these are checked by default, but what do I know?
Yes, Vice Chair. The CRA doesn't bring forward grants or have the board enter into grant agreements with business entities that are not or they are prohibited from obtaining a business tax receipt from the city. So while there may be issues raised by the public that are, let's say, in disagreement to what actions are being taken by the city's business tax receipt department or their planning and zoning department. They are a separate entity, as you know, from us. And if the applicant receives his business tax receipt and he does obtain a certificate of occupancy and provides the necessary documentation to us for reimbursement, then and only then would funds be distributed to that applicant. But as far as the business use, if it falls in a category that's acceptable in our grant guidelines and the other conditions that I mentioned are met, then we would bring that item forward.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that these types of safety mechanisms are in place.
Yes, sir. And I might also add that in this particular case, we'll use this as an example, you may, or the city may, have issues with a particular plaza or owner of a plaza, but the individual entity that is coming to you for a grant is a tenant, let's say. So they're trying to occupy a single cell or space within this larger plaza that either the public has issues with or the city code department has issues with. That's not to say that the CRA board could make a decision that until that owner gets on board, we're not going to assist any business that wants to enter into that plaza. But in this particular case, the request for funding is to the tenant and not to the property owner. So any trees that are falling or anything like that that you wanted to put conditions on this grant, I don't believe you would want to do so. They would be taken up with the owner themselves.
Thank you for that. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
So moved.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Chair?
And so I see that someone asked to speak at public comments and I moved too fast.
Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Romulus, Board Member
Thank
Romulus.
you. Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment based on some of the last things that were said between Board Member Princerga and Director Mike Simon. He moved right into the motion, so I didn't have a chance to respond. But I just wanted to say that I would hope that in no way do we ever penalize our individual small business owners because of the actions of the owner of a particular plaza or something like that. I hope that that's not what we do or ever in the future.
All right, thank you. So I missed Zach Linsat, and so I'm going to unmute him to see if so he can ask this question. Hello, Zach, are you there? All right. So his question that he wrote is, hi, this is Zach Lanzat, and I had a question about getting a rental grant. I'm buying an all-state agency, Boynton Beach. I spoke with Bonnie Nickley and she invited me to the Zoom call. Thank you. Zach, we offer grants. I believe there's no funds left in this month, but next month, starting in October 1st, we should have some economic development grants available. We will be approving those grant applications. And so please check our website for next year's applications.
Board, if I may,
Yep.
In addition to his comments, there's a specific issue with regard to his purchasing of this business that we can raise during the discussion of the new grants for the upcoming year. And I believe you could provide clarification during that time for that issue. So there is that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to CRA projects in progress. Our first is marketing, business promotions, and social media update from Mercedes, Renee, and Tracy.
Good evening, board. This is Renee Roberts, social media and communications specialist. Our business development team has prepared a PowerPoint to share some of the social media marketing and business promotional initiatives that were executed throughout the month of August. John, if you could open that PowerPoint for us, please.
Coming right up.
Thanks. Staff continue to utilize our social media platforms to promote CRA projects and local businesses located within the CRA area. I'm going to review some of the social media initiatives that took place in the month of August. You can go on to slide 2. Phase 1 of the Like a Local social media campaign concluded with a spotlight of the scuba diving charters that are located at the Boynton Harbor Marina. Next slide. Social media followers were encouraged to participate in the contest, which was run on both Facebook and Instagram, for their chance to win a voucher to be redeemed at one of our available charters. Prizes were awarded for Starfish Scuba. Next slide. In an effort to provide additional exposure to marina businesses, staff recorded business promotional videos with Starfish Scuba that shared information about the safety measures that have been implemented by the dive charters to protect patrons from the ongoing COVID-19 threat. Next slide. In August, we also started to promote the second phase of our Like a Local social media campaign, which focused on promoting health, wellness, and fitness businesses. Social media followers were encouraged to engage on specific contest posts for their chance to win a gift certificate to the business of their choice. Prizes were awarded for your CBD store and for Bicycle. Next slide. Social media followers were encouraged to engage on specific contest posts for their chance to win. Oh, I'm sorry. I was on the wrong slide. Here are 2 examples of the project posts that were shared in August. Throughout the month, we shared a variety of posts on both the city and the CRA projects, such as the Town Square project. Oh, I think we're on the wrong slide. Can you go to the next slide, John? I'm sorry. There we go. Here are 2 examples of the project posts that were shared in August. Throughout the month, we shared a variety of posts on both the city and the CRA projects, such as the Town Square project, the Boynton Beach Cultural Center, Ocean Breeze East, and the Historic Women's Club of Boynton Beach. Next slide. We continue to promote COVID-19 safety measures and special offers for both new and existing businesses within the CRA area in an effort to encourage residents to patronize and support our local businesses. Staff recorded multiple videos that highlighted a variety of businesses, including Chez Andrea Gourmet Provence, Guacago, OK&M, The Butcher and the Bar, and ENC Beauty Salon Experience. For this next slide, I'll pass it on to Tracy, who will provide a recap of some of our print and radio ads.
Good evening, board. Tracy Smith Coffee, Marketing and Business Development. On this slide, hold on, you will see, here are 2 examples of the types of print marketing that was published in August to further promote the various charters located in the Boynton Harbor Marina. A quarter-page ad in the Coastal Angler magazine featured the dive charter companies, and a full-page ad in the Delray News and Boca newspaper promoted each of the businesses located in the marina. Next slide, please. We expanded our reach with the promotion of the dive charters. We contracted with WRMF 97.9 for a 30-second ad that promotes the Dive Like a Local contest for 5 days at the beginning of August. The package also provided ad placement on WRMF website, which is shown on this slide. Mercedes will present the next slide.
Good evening, Board. Mercedes Coppin, Business Promotions and Events Manager. If you could please go to the next slide. Thank you. So in August, we published 2 blogs to showcase the businesses located along East Ocean Avenue. The first blog focused on spotlighting the businesses located within the 400 block of the avenue and included an overview of East Ocean Cafe, Artsy Living, the Soul Oasis, Original Barber, and the Blossom Shop. And the second blog that we did was a write-up of each of the businesses located within Ocean Plaza, located at 640 East Ocean Avenue. Now, as of today, these blogs have collectively been viewed more than 350 times. So that's pretty good exposure for our businesses. And if you could please go to the next slide. Oh, sorry, next slide. Okay, so in the past couple of months, we have welcomed a variety of new businesses to the CRA area. And in an effort to provide additional exposure, staff has begun to conduct virtual ribbon cuttings, which are broadcasted via Facebook Live. In August, we assisted with ribbon cutting ceremonies at Guaca Go and Organic Kitchen in Mercantile. And that does conclude our presentation. Are there any questions?
Hearing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next item is CRA Economic and Business Development Grant Program for fiscal year 2019-20 year-end report. Bonnie Nicklan.
Good evening, Board. Bonnie Nicklan, Grants and Project Manager. This item provides an overview of the Economic Development Grant Programs for fiscal year 2019 and 2020. As you are aware, the programs provide 50% matching reimbursable funding for eligible property improvement expenses, as well as provide assistance with the first year of rent. The total budget this year was $948,000, and the remaining balance as of tonight's approvals is $3,656. So I think we had an incredible year. The CRA approved $259,601 in commercial rent reimbursement grants and $402,937 in property improvement grants. We had the pleasure of assisting 14 new businesses, adding over 23,000 square feet of new commercial space, and assisted 5 existing businesses with either expanding and or making facade improvements totaling over 17,000 square feet. John, if you could pull up the attachment 2, you can see a few of the commercial improvements to some of our new businesses. And while he scrolls through those pictures, I'll continue. With these grant dollars, the CRA added 8 new restaurants or specialty food businesses, 2 hair salons, 3 retail stores, 3 medical or professional offices, and then 3 commercial property facade improvements to the CRA district. So a great variety. We also had the unique challenge presented by the COVID-19 pandemic. The CRA board approved commercial rent reimbursement to current and or previous grant recipients from the past 5 years, with an additional 6 months of 50% matching rent reimbursement for the months of March through August. This program assisted 42 additional businesses with relief funding totaling $289,119. Lastly, the CRA board approved $1 million in funding for the Small Business Disaster Relief Forgivable Loan Program to offset the business's costs associated with utility, payroll, or inventory expenses. Over the course of 7 weeks, the CRA distributed a forgivable loan of up to $10,000 to 101 businesses within the CRA area. It's definitely been a real pleasure working with each business this year, and I look forward to seeing what the new fiscal year brings. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
I have a question regarding 500 Ocean. Many of the pictures I saw were in 500 Ocean. Could somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but are all of the storefronts filled now, including this, if we were to count 500 Ocean Cafe? Or what's the status of all the vacancies? Are they vacant?
Sure.
Are they...
Oh, sorry, if I may. So there are 7 commercial units on the ground floor, and as of today, there are 6 signed leases for the 7 spots. And of those 6, 5 are grant recipients.
Fantastic.
And supposedly the upstairs office space is also leased out, and I have met with him. It's a longer process for him because it's such a long space, but he is also interested in applying for grants.
Okay. So there's only one left. Is that right?
Correct. It's one unit, approximately about 2,500 square feet.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. Great job.
Thank you.
Board, you should be very, it's almost just $50,000 shy of $2 million this year to our businesses and lots of them. So again, hats off to you for supporting them and staff for the hard work that you did getting that money out there.
Mike, did I hear you say 101 businesses?
Yes, 101 were helped with your COVID program with the
Yes.
Forgivable loans. Yes, sir.
Did we
In
leave
addition to the other business. I'm sorry?
Did we leave anybody in line? Did we have, were we able to take care of all the requests?
No, we were not. I can't,
Okay.
Bonnie, do you know exactly how many were not funded that were, let's say, eligible and in full response, if we can tell that?
Yes, I believe it was 3 applications were not fulfilled.
Oh, okay.
And then I've had a handful of calls between now and then, but no other applications.
Very good. Very
Okay,
good. Mike.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you. Our next item, 12C, Palm Beach County Housing Authority project update.
Yes, board, this is a little bit of both Tara and my item, but as of the September, well, let's say in the August meeting, you had asked for an update, and there wasn't much to update at that point. The Housing Authority staff was meeting with HUD in around July 15th in Miami to discuss the technicalities of their application for disposal of those vacant lots in the Cherry Hill area. We had not really heard anything back from them. I reached out on September 2nd the 1st and received a response the next day that they did have a good meeting with the technical team in Miami in July, and they are anticipating submitting this disposal application to HUD at the end of this month, of September. And they estimate it taking approximately 60 to 90 days for HUD to approve their application, which at that point, what they've approved is how they're going to dispose of all of their different in various properties, whether they be vacant lots or whether they be single family or duplex. They have a very large portfolio of properties that I imagine that they are getting ready to ask for disposal. So these lots are part of that. It was encouraging. It wasn't definitive, but encouraging.
Excellent. And so I would request that this board wait until the end of the month, and that, you know, the CRA staff bring us back the application that is submitted at our next meeting in October. And if we don't get the application submitted, then we'll send a letter of support to the governor, the HUD's director, and the secretary, stating that our encouragement and desire to work with Palm Beach County Housing Authority and the delays that we are experiencing in order to move forward with vacant lots. And so, yeah, I don't think we need a motion, but if I can get consensus, I'd appreciate that.
I don't have a problem there.
No problem.
All right. Thank you. Our next update is for the model block affordable single family home ownership.
Yes, Ford, Michael Simon. Oh, Tweety, you're going to take it? Great.
No, it's okay.
No,
Thank you.
Tweety, your name's on
Yeah,
it.
Tweety, you just vanished. It's okay.
All right, good evening, board chair and board members. It'll be a quick one. The construction is going on very well considering the COVID pandemic situation. Habitat for Humanity's properties. The two that are there, all the finished work on the painting has been done. The third unit on Northwest 11th is proceeding with the finished stucco work as well as the painting. And likewise with the CDC's two parcels or two properties, it's the same. John, if you could do attachment, if you could put attachment 1 for some of the visuals. John? Well, in attachment 1, we have progress photos. And I think that is really all we have to report. Hopefully they will be able to get the volunteers needed for some of these properties so they can get going again once everything starts getting back and reopening again.
Twee, hi, this is Yuri. Just so you know, John has momentarily lost connectivity and he's trying to get back in right now. Let me see if I can pull up that item that you're looking for. Twee, can you read out the file name to me?
It would be just the attachment 1, the first attachment.
To item 12C, Yuri.
12C, yes.
I have a 12A, I don't see 12C in there.
Well, I've driven by it, and the houses look almost done, and so it's very exciting that even with COVID-19, they're still able to get the majority of the work done. And I think having that road that goes to Northwest First Street has made a huge difference with the traffic, and I really want to thank the city and CRA for working together with Habitat and the CDC to make more homes, affordable homes in the city, and having ease of traffic in the heart of Boynton. So
thank you.
Well, I'd rather, if it's okay with the board, we'll move on to the next item, and we'll ask that you post the pictures on the CRA's Facebook social media pages.
Yes, we will. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
All right. Our next item is Neighborhood Officer Program third quarter report for fiscal year 2019-2020.
Board Chair, do you see in attendance someone?
Yes, Sergeant Deal. He is here if he wants to come to the podium. And I'm gonna. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening, board. Sergeant Deal, Boynton Beach Police Department.
All right. You have anything to report?
Well, I submitted my quarterly report to the staff and the board here for review. With COVID-19 and the schools being out, it's kind of like a slow go, but cautiously optimistic. The schools are going back in session on the 21st of this month. We're working diligently with the schools regarding getting some necessary supplies. Point Santa got some supplies from us a couple weeks back, and we did some social distancing pickup of supplies at Galaxy Elementary. So we're moving them forward. So hopefully, like when things get back to order soon, we're moving in the right direction, as you know. Things are gonna get back to the norm, as they say.
All right, excellent.
Any questions for me?
Yes. Mayor,
yes.
I'd like to ask a question.
Yes.
Sergeant Deal, I see in one of the attachments, it's the crime report. And I just wanted to ask you, from your experience, has there been any different trends or new trends to crime? Is there anything we need to know about this report?
Yeah, 1 second. They're pulling it up now
Okay.
so I can look at it. Are you looking at there's two different versions, the map version and or the chronological version? Which one?
I'm looking at the map, but in general, I just wanted to know from your experience if there's anything that should be brought forward in terms of crime statistics.
All right, so during this particular quarter, it encompassed the third quarter, which is basically the second quarter of the calendar year. Because of coronavirus, a lot of things were shut down. So we had a downward tick, slowing of crime, which is a good thing. They're pulling it up now. So
What is exactly the page?
actually, it's an addendum.
Okay.
Share. That's the report itself. It's not on there. It's going to be one of the other attachments.
Is it all the way at the bottom?
No, I don't think it's on the
I think it's a separate document.
second document. If you go back one page. Nonetheless, the crime for this particular quarter, the third quarter of the fiscal year, second quarter of the year, encompassed the time of the coronavirus. So crime was on a downward tick. A lot of the things, city parks, city elements were closed, businesses were closed. So we saw a reduction in crime. Now, as things started reopening, we did see a little increase in crime, especially on the larcenies and retail thefts of that nature. But working with our intelligence officer, that's all photos for we've been conquering or tackling, I should say, the larcenies that are happening out in Home Depot, those areas and all that. We've been trying to get a good grasp on people walking in and out of the stores with merchandise, especially with the COVID-19 and wearing masks, and it's getting harder to ascertain these people's information.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a separate attachment. Those are he's scrolling through the photos. We still stayed active in the community, giving out food at the Boynton Beach Mall and the Price Fellowship area. As you saw, oh, there it is.
Last slide.
So you can see in the map, there was a, in the upper right-hand corner, if you scroll down just a tad, there's a little legend in the upper right-hand corner about the crimes. Now, keep in mind that the reason why this map exists, and then we have a chronological of the other maps, earlier this fiscal year or this calendar year, the board asked me to provide both types of maps so you get a better representation, because this is only part one crimes, and the other chronological has basically all the crime in the neighborhood. If you want to scroll down and maybe the other part. Yeah, there it is. So these are the crimes for the quarter, 30th, it goes back. You can see the burglaries, you can see one of the shopliftings, things like that. The crime has was down, but had been increasing, yes. With the reopening.
And that's our
the
budget. That's it. And so I'll ask the board, does everybody see us on the next item now, 14A, for your screens?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. Okay. So yeah,
Thank you, Sergeant.
And is there any other questions for our neighborhood officer program? I know my question is how is Officer Paramore doing? Has he been at full duty yet?
No. So Officer Paramore, he had his second surgery this past week on Thursday. The doctor explained to our risk management that he'll be out of work for 3 more additional weeks.
Okay.
But when he When he comes back after those 3 weeks, he should be released to full duty status. So we're looking, I don't know how that works. I'm not a doctor, so he's supposed to have surgery. He wanted to have surgery. I talked to him. He did well on the surgery. Now he's doing the recuperation, and he's supposed to be released to full duty status 3 weeks from last Thursday.
All right.
So hopefully all goes well. He'll be back to work within 3 weeks.
Well, let him know that we're praying for a speedy recovery, and to stay safe and not play any more basketball.
No more basketball.
Yeah.
Amen.
It was a very good club.
Yes, it was. It was a good game. Is there anything else for our neighborhood officer program? Hearing none, we're going to move on to item 14A, discussion and consideration of fiscal year 2020-2021.
Good evening, board. This is Vicki Hill, the finance director for the CRA. Let's go right into the budget.
Yes.
For fiscal year 2021, we're looking at tax increment revenues of $14,852,192. For the marina, we're looking at $1 million. We found a fund balance surplus of $100,000, which our total revenue, we're looking at $15,952,192. Our debt service payments are totaled at $2,137,822. Our operating budget, we're looking at $2.8 million, which total debt and operating expenses total $5,035,480. The Boynton Harbor Marina, that $1 million that goes in, we're anticipating we will need $1 million for the operating of that. Everything that's below that is the tax increment revenue, the TERFA payments that we will have for Walmart. This is our 9th year with Walmart, so we're looking to pay them $17,500. For Seabourn Cove, this is our 8th year, $425,000. Seabourn Cove Phase 2, we're looking at $175,000. The Preserve, this is year 6 for them, is $27,500. 500 Ocean, this will be year 2 for them, $436,000. The City of Boynton Beach has asked us in Town Square funding for $3.7 million. If we could go to the second page, if there are no questions so far. So we can go to our project fund worksheet, and the board has already allocated where they would like funding to go. I just wanted to see if there are any changes to that. So far, we have for the MLK Junior Corridor redevelopment project from fiscal year 1920, we're going to carry over $1.1 million. So that's what will be there for fiscal year 2021. For the MLK Junior Boulevard Corridor, the Centennial Project, the local government match, we needed $625,750. So that's what will be allocated for fiscal year 2021. For the NOP office location, there is $130,000 needed. We have allocated $50,000 for fiscal year 2021. Property acquisition, yes.
No, I think that's another conversation later on regarding the neighborhood officer program location. So I'm going to wait to speak on that item then.
Yes, sir. Okay, for property acquisition, we're rolling over 200,000. We're adding an additional $583,531, which will total $784,136 for property acquisition. For Cottage District, we are rolling over $385,825. I see there is a Mangrove Park in East Boynton Beach Boulevard extension project, but we already have the funding for that in fiscal year 1920. I just wanted you all to be aware of it. So we already have the funds for that. Boynton Beach Boulevard Streetscape Improvement Project, we have in fiscal year 1920, we have $250,000. We're adding $618,580, and the total for fiscal year 2021 will be $868,580. Acquisition for 411 North Boynton Beach Boulevard, that will be closing in October 2020. We needed $930,000. We have $650,000 from fiscal year 1920. The only thing we needed was $280,000 from fiscal year 2021 to close in October. The acquisition for 209 North Seacrest Boulevard, which will also be closing in October, we needed $1.3 million, and we have that for earmarked for fiscal year 2021. We will be needing $1.4 million, but that anticipated closing is for 2023 for 217 North Seacrest Boulevard, which is the post office. The neighborhood program, NOP's 5th year of program, we did not use $200,000 in fiscal year 1920. So we're going to carry over those funds and add to it $329,000, which will be the $529,000 that they asked for the NOP budget. Commercial economic redevelopment grants. We have $2,000 that we're rolling over, and it looks as if we are adding to that $400,000, so we will have $402,113 for economic redevelopment grants. We have a neighborhood signage grant for $25,000. That's for fiscal year 2021. Business promotions and events assistance project, we are rolling over $140,000, $140,000 from fiscal year 1920, and from 2021 we're adding $163,623, which we will have a grand total of $303,623. For the business and marina marketing assistance project, we are rolling over $48,726 from fiscal year 1920 and adding $25,000 from fiscal year 2021, and that will total $73,726. The redevelopment assistance for the Palm Beach County Housing Authority lots, we have $100,000 that from fiscal year 1920 that we will be rolling over. We're adding $400,000 to that. That will be $500,000 in that line item. For the Sarah Sims Amphitheater, from fiscal year 2021, we have $50,000. The sustainability tree canopy, we have $20,000 from fiscal year 1920, and we will be adding an additional $15,650. That will total $35,650. The residential grant program, we will be rolling the $95,000 that we had for fiscal year 1920. The Historic Women's Club of Boynton Beach, for the ongoing renovations, we will be rolling over $238,525 from fiscal year 1920. Site work and demo, we will be rolling approximately 37,000, and adding 62,378, which will give us a total of 100,000, a little over $100,000. Professional development services, we have $60,000 from fiscal year 1920. We will add $57,100, and that will give us a total of $117,000. The legal services, we project that we'll be rolling over $6,000, adding $125,000, which will total $131,000. And per the board, we have $280,000 in the contingency. And that will allocate all of the funds that we have for fiscal year 2021. Board Chair, you had
Yes.
something you wanted to say?
Not unnecessarily on the allocations. I think everything looks good. I know that we took some money out, for the Northeast 3rd Street roadway improvement project, because we may not know if we want it Northeast 3rd Street or Northeast 2nd Street, but I'd like to have that money there so that we can move forward with the design and hopefully, the moving of the Public Works location from its current location to the Rolling Green site.
Okay.
So I'll ask the rest of the board if they have any other comments or would like to make any changes.
Chair, I have a question regarding the line item for the NOP office, but I do know that it's coming up later, and so I'm not sure if I should ask it now or later. Would you prefer that we defer until later?
The aspect of it is that why does the CRA staff feel that 130,000 is needed, and then why do we only put 50,000 there?
That's part of my question, so yes.
So, yes, Michael?
Yes, if I may, some of this has transpired and will show up later in the agenda, but it transpired between the August meeting and this evening's meeting, in that we had obligated or identified the $130,000 worth of funding within this current year's budget to move forward with the build out at the Ocean Breeze East site, which was the location as per our agreement with Centennial during the negotiation of that sale and that project. Mm-hmm. Since then, we have proposed to you this evening that the funding that was in that identified in this current year be used elsewhere in the current year. And at this moment, all we identified going into this evening was $50,000 for the neighborhood office. If it is indeed relocated, then we might not need that at all. We would tie it into the commercial space within the development of the MLK corridor project, or we would seek additional funding from the contingency line item at the bottom of the screen. So we had 50,000 left over from that 100,000 that Vicki mentioned on the first page of fund availability, and I just put the 50 there as a way to get the 100 distributed. But ideally, what would happen is that the commercial development of the MLK corridor project will include the neighborhood officer space if that's what the board so desires at their request.
Yeah, and so I guess my question now is that the neighborhood officer program is not ideally at the Ocean Palm Plaza, but that's okay for the following year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
So once we know more about the exact cost, I think that's when we would try to reallocate any contingency funding or the MLK corridor redevelopment project line item.
Yeah. No, I'm okay with the 50,000 being for the neighborhood officer program. And if they find ways to spend that money for community benefits, I'm also okay with that as well.
Mayor,
Yes.
my comment on that is that I would prefer to see that $50,000 be transferred over to the sustainability fund, but that is my position.
Vice Chair, is that the tree canopy line?
Yes, the sustainability tree canopy fund.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like I said, I'd like to keep it with the neighborhood officer program. I know they deal with a lot with the kids, and if they can expand their ability to help the children, that's kind of my concern. I'd like to see if the vice chair would be willing to split the difference, leaving 25,000 with the neighborhood officer and moving only 25,000 to the sustainable tree canopy.
Chair, I am always open to compromise, and so more than happy with that.
All right.
I do
Excellent.
have a question for staff. Could somebody just remind me why there was that 200,000 that we're rolling over from the NOP? We did not spend all of the NOP program funds. And
Yes,
we
sir.
what was the reason for that? I don't recall.
We, the budget called for, I believe, 3 officers and 1
That's right.
like
Okay.
assistant. And we only funded 2 officers. That would be Officer Perrymore and Officer Rivera. So we didn't use all of the funding.
That's right. Thank you. I remember now.
Okay.
You're welcome. Thank you, Vicki.
Mm-hmm.
Board Chair Grant, this is John McNally. Can you hear me okay?
I can. I was going to let you, I was going to finish this and then
Okay.
let you take over.
And you also do have a member of the public audience with their hand raised.
Perfect.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
All right. So we have Lois Smith. You have been unmuted.
Thank you. I'm concerned about the MLK corridor. You've slated 1.8 million for that area, but when are we developing or making some projects known? I think we've been working on this for how many years now to get MLK developed properly? I noticed that there's a vacant building on the corner of 10th and Seacrest, or MLK and Seacrest. So I know the CRA is allocating or transferring funds from last year's budget to this year coming up. So what is going on with the MLK corridor that you're stating you're slating the money for the projects over there?
So regarding the vacant building, the CRA board had an opportunity to buy it last year, but they tabled it and the property owner withdrew their offer. The aspect of the MLK corridor development, we also had money in there for the possible relocation of the headquarters for the community caring center. That also did not go through as they merged with the community caring center. The fact that the Wells Landing LLC project that we are going to discuss later on received the 9% Florida Housing Finance Corporation. That is probably the project that we would help fund so that we can get the biggest and best project on Martin Luther King with the land that we have available.
Okay, what I questioned the commissioners at last week's meeting, the properties that are in need of a lot of help as far as developing them and helping the elderly in the area to improve their properties. I would like to see something substantial going on for the heart of Boynton, because I noticed year after year you're allocating millions of dollars, but as far as seeing what is the end result, and then the properties are not being kept, that are being allocated to this area. So we're wondering what is happening with the money. Is it being transferred like you seemingly are suggesting tonight, to transfer funds from this account to another account to appease another project? What will be happening with MLK and the area, Heart of Boynton area, in the near future? We would like to know something, please.
All right. Michael? Do you have an answer for that question?
I do. Good evening, Ms. Smith. I'm a little confused on where we're moving money from in this particular context to away from the MLK corridor or the Heart of Boynton and somewhere else. I think that the project of the Ocean Breeze East and that new project worth $30+ million is a good project. We have the Cottage District, which we have an RFP out right now. That's 5 acres of single family home ownership project in the Heart of Boynton. We also have, as the board chair mentioned, the Centennial Wells Landing project, or the new project on MLK Boulevard, is 124 units and 8,500 square feet of retail commercial space that we will certainly be trying to fill with neighborhood services and other retail, ideally from Boynton Beach, or certainly qualified vendors from others that work out in that particular space. This money that's in the line item that you see, the $1.1 million, that money is going toward this project and other projects within the corridor to assist with the cost of building that commercial space, the 8,000 square feet, and the cost to carry that space. A portion of that $1 million will be allocated toward the build out and the maintenance and management of that space until it's filled. We have the Sim Center project and our, let's see, what else would be there?
Mike, you have a carryover. Where's the money for the actual money that you should have each year allocated to a certain area? You're saying you're carrying over from 2021.
Yes,
What happened in 20?
Yes, ma'am.
That's all I'm asking about.
The reason why there's $1 million there is because the project was absolutely wonderfully funded in full by the state, and that project was applied for during the last year. So we had the money waiting in the event that the project did not get funded. The CRA had anticipated providing money to the developer to build it ourselves, as in partnership with them, to the tune of about $13 million. So we didn't have to do that. So the reason why this money is rolling forward is because, as you can see on MLK Boulevard, construction has not started on the project yet. So we anticipate spending that funding as that project begins construction.
So with monies allocated to Boynton Beach each year, why isn't it that there is an additional amount taken out of, the different, I was listening to the budget earlier. There are a lot of money being funneled into Boynton from different areas of the line items that you're presenting. However, what is happening with the monies that should have been going to the Heart of Boynton MLK corridor? I know you're saying projects have been put on hold or halted for a certain reason. However, for years, Mike, you know that we've been asking, pleading with you to be equitable with the Heart of Boynton the MLK corridor. It is still blighted, and it goes year after year after year, and we don't see much changing. You have put up structures, believe me, I've seen them. However, the structures do not give buyback for the residences. I understand that the Breeze East is going to be a rental property, and it's not that the residents will be able to buy in and get sustainable living arrangements. So what I'm saying is we're looking at how you are going back and forth with the monies, but what is really actually happening to build the wealth for all? I see wealth is being built for the guys who are being the developers and given extra money from CRA, but the actual residents, they are not benefiting from a lot of what you are proposing tonight and in many nights before this. So I want to know, guys, are you just playing around with the numbers? Or are we really going to see some things happen on MLK corridor?
So, Lois, I really understand what you're saying, and you're saying that the CRA needs to do more with the residential development and help first-time home buyers, similar to what they did 15 years ago with Lysindra Hawkins.
Well,
We
not
have a
not the people that are actually being given those properties that are in the Breeze West. I'm understanding even the habitat that surrounds the area, they are paying enormous mortgages when they are given an opportunity to own. And then you did the land trust, which took the land from underneath the house. So it basically what I'm saying, and I think you've heard, everyone come forward in the past, we need to see some sustainable growth for the residents of Boynton Beach. The heart of Boynton is just one area where I feel that you are not really engaging us the way we need to be engaged with sustainable increase, not decrease, not paying the bill, not footing the bill.
Excuse me. So, how do you propose to spend the money?
Well, we've been asking on MLK, and you know that the area is still like very the lots are vacant, and we say, because of crime, and I was appalled by the fact that you had a crime report, for the Heart of Boynton area. That was really telling right there. Uh, the area around Boynton can be ridden of all of the crime that you are claiming that we have in the Heart of Boynton. But what I'm basically saying, if you build something worthwhile, people will be able to see that you are being fair. You're doing what you're actually doing on the opposite side of Boynton Beach Boulevard and the other areas out further out west. But you're not really building sustainable businesses that we can own, that we can perhaps build for the future. And that is what we're saying, sustainable, not just a fly by night
So I
family dollar.
understand what you're saying, and the aspect of it is that the CRA is currently with the Cottage District, currently in an RFP for the Cottage District to build 30 or so of sustainable houses and townhouses between Northeast 4th and Northeast 5th Avenue on that vacant lots. You are correct. The Wells Landing on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard is not necessarily going to be owned by the residents, but half of their rent is going to be paid by the state. And that is what makes it affordable for low income and very low income people, not just to have a place to live, but hopefully be able to create wealth and have financial literacy to start saving with the reduced rent payments for a house of their own with a down payment. And then the aspect of it is that I agree. There are way too many vacant lots in Cherry Hill. Earlier in this conversation, we had the discussion, how do we move forward with the Palm Beach County Housing Authority? we have $500,000 there that we are looking forward to purchase those lots after the Housing and Urban Development of our federal government gives them permission to dispose. The only thing that I can think of regarding the homeowners there is the residential grant program, where we are helping the homeowners improve their houses and build new houses. In addition, for the businesses there are industrial spaces that are for sale or that have the ability to use our economic development grants. And the CRA currently has not focused on encouraging manufacturing and job growth in that industrial area of the heart of Boynton Beach. But that is something that we could look forward to hopefully next year. And then the last aspect of the heart of Boynton Beach is the public works location. The city is currently moving forward with talks to move the public works location to another location within the city limits, and then put that into a mixed use project where you will have both commercial and residential there. So I do understand it's been decades. It's been the entire time that I lived in the city of Boynton Beach, and we are finally starting to get movement. We see it with Ocean Breeze East, but for someone that's been here for more than 10 years, it's way too slow. And so I understand what you're saying, and I wish I could tell you that we could find ways to spend money to move it faster.
Can I give you an example, Mayor, of something?
I'm going to let Commissioner Board Member Hayes speak, and then give you final comments, and then we can move on.
Okay, because I did need to say this, I guess. Okay. Hi,
Lois,
Commissioner Hay.
Yeah, Lois, I share your pain because I've lived here. You probably live here longer than I have, but I've lived in Boynton for over 50 years, and I share what you're saying. But I want you to look at the activity that is going on that Mayor just went through. Also, I mean, we got home ownership over in the Ocean Breeze West, and now we are working. It's not going to be home ownership on Ocean Breeze East, but we are building. But then the Cottage District, you know, we had that discussion among the community members, and it was overwhelmingly that they wanted to go with home ownership, and so that's what that's the direction that we're going in now. And then you look at the model block project, you have nothing but home ownership there. So there's so much activity going on. Then you look at the Centennial project that we're talking about on MLK. That's coming. That's going to be that's going to happen. Okay. Then we roll right into the Cottage District. So there's a lot of activity that I'm excited about. I know it's long overdue. I hear you and I feel you, but I think we as a Boynton CRA and the city and this board, I just feel we're moving in the right direction finally. Okay. And I think we're working for too long, Lois, and you've been around. We've had turbulence at the high level, and we were not able to agree to even start so many projects that we should have. It was totally unfair. But now that we have a board and a commission that is working cohesively together, you're beginning to see some things done. The frustration is there. It's not fast enough, and I agree with you. But we are moving in the right direction.
Thank you for saying that. I can look back just 5 years, just hearing you say the same thing and hearing CRA say the same thing when they developed a plan that they were going to do something with the MLK corridor, Heart of Boynton, Cherry Hill. I've heard it over and over and over like it's going to happen. I want to basically see it happen in my lifetime. But that's beside the point. I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about, how the residents go a step further and then they're brought a step back. I went before the board last week and I got a letter from the code enforcer to highlight code violations of our property. Like, why are you not taking the onus to cut the trees, but I get cited by code something that has nothing to do with what I requested, but it was like a hit. That's the kind of thing that is what I'm talking about. That happens to the residents of Boynton. We try to get a step further, and then we're brought back a step, 2 or 3 steps backwards. Meaning that was unfair to be able to be cited for something that had nothing to do with what I'm basically requesting them to take care of. I still see no movement on the electrical area around the electrical pole. I haven't seen any movement. So that is what I'm saying. We kind of try to increase our wealth or whatever we're trying to do day to day with our lives. We're trying to live respectable lives. But what I'm seeing is very little being given back. Not that we're looking for a handout. We're saying just be equitable, be outright equitable, with what you're planning and how you go about it. And we're asking for results, not just to talk about it. Yes, I know you saying it's going to happen, but when? When will it happen? And you say, oh, it's coming soon. Sure.
No, you see it happening right now.
So Lois, I'm gonna say thank you for your comments.
Okay.
And I understand your frustrations because we all want what's best for Boynton Beach, and it's not easy.
Okay. I appreciate the mic. Thank you.
You're welcome. And so, if anyone else from the board would have any comments, I don't think, I'll see if anybody else would like to speak on public. But may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Is there
Can
any
I
further
clarify
discussion?
for the motion? Are you motioning as amended to change the line item regarding the neighborhood officer program?
Yes,
To be
motion.
25,000.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. And so we have a first and we have a second of the approval of the amended budget. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. I'm going to hand over control to John McNally for the screen.
Thank you.
And now you have the screen.
Perfect. Okay, I believe we should be on, is it item 14B? Is that correct, Board Chair?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
I'm sorry, this board is the resolution, the consideration of the resolution R20-04 adopting the CRA budget for fiscal year 2021.
All right. So may I have a motion to adopt? And do we need to make it as amended by the project fund budget, or as stated is fine?
As stated is fine, sir.
Thank you. May I have that motion?
So move as stated.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to 14C, discussion and consideration of relief options for grant payoff requirement in CRA home buyer assistance program mortgage between Lysindra Hoggins Wilson and the CRA.
Yes, Board Chair and board members, this item is being brought forth to you at the request of the grant recipient, the homeowner assistance Homebuyer Assistance Program grant recipient and homeowner Lysandra Hoggins Wilson. You may remember that Ms. Wilson came to us in February 13th, 2018, and the CRA board approved a request for subordination of its HAP mortgage in order for Ms. Hoggins to refinance her property located at 508 Northwest 12th Street. I believe that's 12th Avenue in Boynton Beach. And the refinancing was intended to provide funding for improvements such as flooring, landscaping, and general repairs in order for them to rent the property, which you also agreed to allow to occur without any type of financial penalty under the terms of the grant. On April 10th of 2018, the board agreed to a second amendment to the HAP agreement. That second agreement, which is attached, outlined provisions of the grant if the property were sold to a qualified, non-qualified buyer. It also allowed Ms. Hoggins to refinance the property again without any repayment of the original grant. However, there was not an agreement on the board's behalf to reduce the amount of the grant from $47,000 to $5,000. The property was refinanced on July 15, 2019. And as customary and as you agreed, we subordinated to the first mortgage. This evening, Ms. Hoggins, earlier in the week, provided a request for the board to consider a reduction of the original grant payoff amount of $47,000 and offered a formula of that reduction based on the number of years that she's owned the property. Ms. Hoggins Wilson has indicated that she is attempting to sell the property, and of course, when the property is sold, any debt outstanding and attached to the property is required to be paid off, and that is why she's bringing forward this item this evening. I believe Ms. Hoggins is present on the as part of the virtual meeting if you would like to ask her any questions. But essentially, this has been brought forth at her request.
All right. Ms. Hoggins, are you available? I see you. I just unmuted you. It says that you're yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. I can hear you now.
Great.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. It's Lysandra Hoggins Wilson, property 508 Northwest 12th Avenue, Boynton Beach, Florida. Thank you guys for being able to speak with me tonight on this matter. And like was stated before, I've come before the board a couple of times with different requests, and I appreciate everything that happened last year. I was able to refinance the house, but unfortunately, I was not able to get the full amount that the bank was requesting because at the last minute, the bank would not allow for the $47,000 to be forgiven. So they actually put that back into the debt amount. And so I was not able to get what was originally requested. Nevertheless, I was able to get something, which I did do a couple of home improvements. At this point in time, I have another child that is going off to college, hopefully in January. And this time around, given what Ms. Lloyd said before, and I don't know her anything like that, but I come before you because at this point, I am thinking about selling the house, but it's difficult to sell a property when what I owe to the mortgage company and then what I would probably walk away with paying the CRA back the $47,000, I would not be able to, get another house. 19 years. I've been here and lived through the worst times, lived through, like Ms. Lloyd said, some things that's supposed to come about. I stay right across the street from the property that the public housing authority is supposed to get. And I was originally told that, of course, when I moved here, that those would be single family homes, and it's just a lot of different. I'm at the point now where we've outgrown the house. I have 3 kids, and 2 of them are adults now, and we've outgrown the property. We've outgrown the neighborhood. I know that the program was intended for first-time home buyers, which, like I said, when I did buy the house, I needed that grant, and I'm appreciative of that. But I've outgrown the house, I've outgrown the property, and at this point in time, I'm just requesting to see if there's any options that I might have.
All right, thank you. You know, the aspect that we have, or that I have, is that, you know, selling it to someone who is, you know, kind of like a first-time home buyer, an income qualified buyer. You know, I'd be happy just to take the, you know, actually no money, and that, you know, wish them well to hope, you know, building the home equity and wealth that you've done for the past 10+ years. However, if you're buying, you know, selling it to someone who is looking to rent out the property and to, you know, not necessarily build wealth for themselves, I don't necessarily know where the CRA board would be willing to do it for a certain amount. You know, the fact that you've been there 10 years and it's a third, I think we would take, you know, $15,000 off. And so, or let's make it easy, 17,000, so that if you're selling it to someone who's not a low income qualified person, that you'd still owe 30,000. So it gives you an incentive to sell to somebody who's low income and qualified, hopefully a first-time home buyer. And then if you're selling it to an investor, the CRA is still requesting this part of their money back. And so how do you feel on that offer, if you would accept or make a counter offer?
So I was muted, I'm sorry. Well, I actually been in the property 13 years, and I agree with what you were saying, but unfortunately, that part was taken out of the last amendment. It no longer states that if I sell to a low buy-in income family, that I would not have to pay anything back. So that was one of the talking points that I wanted to present, because that was taken out of the last amendment. So if I agree with you, I would love to sell to a low buy-in income family and not have to pay any.
All right. And so, you know,
Anything back, I would go with that first. But that is the reason why I'm coming before the board, because that was taken out.
okay. And then regarding the second part, if you're not able to find that type of buyer, is that something you'd be okay with, that part of the agreement? Ms. Wilson? Tell me. What did she say?
We can't hear you. I'm sorry, you're on mute. Mayor?
Yeah.
Can
Can
you hear me,
everyone
Mayor?
hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't hear her.
I can hear you now.
Okay. So with Ms. Wilson, your connection might not be 100%.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you
Can
better.
anybody hear me?
Yes.
Can anybody hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear us?
Okay, I apologize. I was just simply stating that one of the reasons why I was coming before the board. Okay, I was coming before the board because, yes, I can hear you guys. Can you hear me? Oh, can't hear me? What about now?
Yes.
Anybody hear me?
Yes,
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Anybody hear me?
We hear you loud and clear.
I apologize. I'm moving around the house. It's raining. But one of the reasons why I was coming back is because, unfortunately, in the last amendment, that part was taken out. That if I sell my house to a low income family, that I wouldn't have to pay anything back. So that's one of the reasons why I was coming. That would be my first choice to.
We seem to be having some trouble, but I guess my question to staff is there a reason why that clause was removed from her contract with the last amendment?
Sell to a low-income family to give them the opportunity to build like I did, but that was taken out of the last amendment.
That it in fact was not taken out. It was clarified, but that doesn't affect. It was always the way the terms were as they are. They may have been written differently, but they were the repayment. And Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, because my memory is going back a couple years.
Yeah.
It was written differently. Ms. Hoggins and the CRA at the time had a difference of interpretation of the language, so we clarified it the way that the board directed. So that does, but nonetheless, it can be amended at the board's direction tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So based on what you're saying, does that mean that the contract as it's written right now still allows for her to sell to a low income buyer and not have to repay?
No,
As
it does
stands
not.
right now?
It does not as it currently stands.
Board Member Romulus, are you willing to make that motion?
I am willing to make that motion.
All right.
I'm
Do we
willing
have
to
a second? All right, thank you. Is there any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all right, we'll make a amendment to allow no repayment if sold to a qualified low-income buyer.
Right.
All those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, everyone. I really
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Ms. Huggins,
Yes.
Board Chair, did you ever get an answer to your question? If it's not a low-income buyer, was your offer of $17,000 reduction accepted by Ms. Huggins? I know she was cutting in and out. I think you tried.
Yeah, so
Oh, well, I was stating, I think he said that I had been here for 10 years. I had actually been here for 13 years, and I think you said 17 or 15. I'm not sure.
yeah, I said so if you would sell, because right now the contract says you have to live there 30 years in order to not pay the 47,000. I think that's unfair. So, you know, it's kind of even in the sense is that we've dealt with you, and it doesn't seem like this life has been easy for you. So let's plan to, you know, make it 25. You know, I think 30,000 is fair if you sell to a non-qualified buyer.
So is that 30,000 the CRA will receive or take off?
Receive, unless you have a counteroffer.
Okay, because even just saying, even at 30,000, that's still a lot to pay back, being that I can't exceed over 280,000 that's in the contract. So even if I was to sell it for 250, I still would not walk away with enough money to put down on something else. I would only walk away after I pay you 30,000, about $30,000. And as you know, that wouldn't be a substantial amount to put down for a new house if I was trying to get something else.
So what is your counteroffer?
I can counter offer at 15,000.
All right. Does the board want to accept the counteroffer if she sells to a non-qualified buyer?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So do we have a second?
Second with discussion.
Yes.
I never feel comfortable negotiating at the dais, regardless of whether it's virtual or not. My only question to legal is just, is this appropriate? Is this following our statutes and ordinances? And does this still allow for us to continue the program, I guess, moving forward with whoever would be the next homeowner? You're muted. You're muted.
I was unmuted, now I'm muted. Sorry about that. This program we don't have this program anymore. We do have some existing mortgages like this that come before us every now and again, and that is at your discretion to determine how you manage them. Of course, people will argue that you made these changes for someone, that you should make them for them, so that will always be an argument, but there is nothing violative of the law related to this. Also, and Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you know the history of this program. I believe was before my time. I don't read this to say that the property has to sell for $280,000. That was at the time it was originally executed, that the purchase price has, there is no limit on what the home can be sold for in the actual agreement as it stands, just for clarification for Mrs. Hoggins.
Actually,
That was
it's
just
not true. I reviewed the agreement earlier today, and it cannot exceed 280,000.
No, that I'm looking at it right now, Mrs. Hoggins, and on behalf of the CRA, I can tell you from a legal perspective, it says grantee hereby states that the purchase price of the property, that would be the purchase price at the time that you signed the agreement, that you purchased the property and use the assistance, not what you will sell it for in the future.
Okay, my apologies. I will look
No,
into that.
I hope that helps. I just meant to help.
That should help. Right.
All right,
Okay.
so we have a motion and a second for discussion. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone that opposes? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Good luck, Mrs. Wilson.
Thank you, guys. Same to you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Moving on to item 14D.
Yes, again, this is Twee Shutt. For the record, board chair and good evening, board members. This item is before you to consider a second amendment to fund the Habitat for Humanity International grant agreement for their Increasing Quality of Life program that they received back in fiscal year 2018 and 19. They were due to complete the items in the grant agreement, which consist of 3 new single family, 1 detached and 1 duplex located at 110 Northwest 6th Avenue and the villa located at 123 and 127 Northeast 12th Avenue. They also completed 3 neighborhood revitalization program and conducted homeownership and build an educational workshop. To date, they're back to ask for an additional 120 days, 4 more months to complete the last unit, which is located at 110 Northwest 6th Avenue. The duplex has been completed and they're awaiting CO from the city. The reason stated was, as mentioned before, the lack of, the difficulties in getting the volunteers to complete the home during the pandemic. So with that, they are requesting the dates to be moved to have the unit completed and a CO received by October 15th, 2020 till February 15th, 2021. This would take into consideration also the holidays that's coming up during that time. There'll be a hardship with getting volunteers, a lack of volunteers. And staff is in agreement. The draft amendment is included as attachment 3 for the board's review and consideration. And I'm here for any questions. I believe Mr. Jeff Fangler is also in attendance virtually, should there be any questions.
Does the board have any questions?
I, for one, don't have any question with it, and really also motion to extend it.
Second.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you. I agree. Thank you all for the Habitat does to help build homes for people in the city of Boynton Beach. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, board. Thank you, Twee.
Thank you. Our next item is consideration of request for the Commercial Property Improvement Grant Program in the amount of $350 for Marketing Innovation Enterprise, Inc. for the property located at 810 North Federal Highway. We have seen this item a couple of times. She finally did everything that she was supposed to do. I know that she's worked hard to get everything in compliance. And so I request the board move for a motion to approve $350.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Everyone seconded it. All right, thank you. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving forward with consideration of letters of intent for the CRA-owned property located at 1110 North Federal Highway.
Yes, board chair and board members, Michael Simon again for the record. This item appeared before you, which was a letter of interest submitted by Mr. Ben Rogatinsky and Sam Rogatinsky, owners of WPBR Radio, who is currently located in Boynton Beach on South Federal Highway. They submitted a letter of interest to acquire the property that's owned by the CRA at 1110 North Federal Highway. The intent of that purchase was to build a new office for their radio station and professional, as a professional office space. They had originally offered a purchase price of $25,000 plus $60,000 over the course of 5 years of monthly advertising. They were going to build a 1,200, a minimum 1,000 to 1,200 square feet of commercial office building for their business, and they expected that to take about 14 to 18 months. The board accepted, as that is done at that time, they accepted the terms of the letter of interest for the acquisition of that property and directed staff to post the notice to the public of the selling of the property. During that 30-day notice period, the CRA received a second letter of interest that was submitted on August 18th to the CRA by the owners of BDH Consulting Group, which is also a Boynton-based business within the CRA district of engineering, planning, and surveying services. Their offer was several options, and they are described on the cover. I can go through each of them, but essentially there are 3 options for your purchase, all in slightly different pricing and assistance given to you in the form of services or providing you a second mortgage. In response to that second letter of interest that was submitted on the 18th, on August 22nd, the CRA received a revised letter of interest from WPBR Radio, amending or changing their first letter of interest terms to change the price from $25,000 and $60,000 of advertising over a 10-year period to $35,000 plus $70,000 in advertising, or option 2, $55,000 acquisition plus $45,000 in advertising. In fairness to BDH, I guess, verbalize their options were a $30,000 purchase price plus $70,000 in professional services, engineering, surveying, what have you, over a 10-year period. Clarification under CCNA, state statute governing that, would need to be clarified, which BDH Consulting Group agreed. Option 2 would be a $50,000 acquisition price plus engineering services if development occurred with adjacent parcels. And option 3 was a $50,000 acquisition price plus a $40,000 CRA forgivable second mortgage for 10 years, depreciating at 10% per year. Essentially, they're building the same size building, 1,200 square feet maximum, and that is largely due to the size of the property. Both entities fortunately don't need a large space, and the size of the property won't let a larger space be built there. So I believe both of the entities that provided you with letters of interest are on the virtual meeting, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have before or if you are allowing them to speak.
Thank you. And so
Thank you.
I'd like to have the discussion with the board based upon the city commission's recent meeting, that the property to the south of this on the corner, it will be as part of this city. And that kind of gives us the, intuitive, do we want to make a decision now knowing that we can expand the parcel into a larger size? Or do we want to do something now on this size and then see what we can do on the other lot? The whole issue is that do we want 1,000 square foot building, or do we want to try for 2 1,000 square foot buildings or 1 2,000 square foot building? And so for me, I kind of would want to wait and see until the city, if and when the city obtains the property to the south, and then make a decision then, because then if we're not, we're stuck with the decision we made, and may have that orphan property on the corner that adds a lot of value to the property moving forward. So I'll see with what the board wants to do moving forward. Yes, board member Hay.
Both of these businesses, Boynton base, I would like to see us try to keep both of those businesses. I wouldn't want them to go someplace else. So I kind of feel if we have the opportunity to see about that other building next to it, then we could have both of them, because 1,200 square feet is not a whole lot. Not a lot you can do with that in terms of, restaurants and all that kind of stuff. So I think those two businesses are ideal for those two pieces of property, even though we don't know at this juncture whether or not we can, which way that other one's going to go. But from where I stand right now, I would like to wait and see and have the opportunity to having two new businesses, if you will, not new, but 2 more buildings in our area, in our city, the radio and the engineer. I would like to keep them both. So I guess I'm agreeing with you. Let's just wait and kind of see what we can do with that other piece of property, if that makes sense.
And the only caveat is that if we wait too long, those businesses do need to be operating in a commercial location. And if we wait too long, they may find another location, or they have to sign a lease. And so that's kind of
Chair.
If that being the case.
And so that's the issue that we have when we put this, when we decide things to the letter of intent versus an RFP.
Chair.
So, yes.
I'd like to hear input from staff on this.
What is your question?
No, I see that it looked like Mike was about to say something, so I just wanted to give him a chance to say what it is that he wanted to say.
Yes, Vice Chair. I wanted to make sure that before the final decision was made, that I offered some of the research that staff has come up with today, using the city's LDRs and some of our past experience. I believe that there is a way that a property could be built, or a building could be built with a reciprocal easement, so that essentially the two buildings would abut together. So from the outside, you would see kind of what looks to be one building, or certainly a connected building developed on both lots, but individual ownership. And if you are leaning toward the development of both lots with these two entities, I think that if we had 30 days to work with both of these entities, both of which have agreed to things like a cross-access agreement. They certainly both understand reverter clauses and first right of refusals. That's also something that has been revealed. I think that the board chair's comment about timing, I only could have Mr. Rogatinsky speak to that timing with regard to their site development and what have you. But there is a way to combine those two buildings together in a functional way that both entities could be there, we believe, and enough parking for both and improvements to the property that would be attractive, certainly to the federal highway corridor. Just wanted to throw that out. There is a way to do that, we believe.
Okay. So does the board have any comments? And if not, I'm going to open it up to the applicants and to see if they have anything that they'd like to say. If so, please raise your hand if you'd like to speak. All right. So I got Darius Bardales. You have been unmuted by me.
Darius Bardales, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Hello, hi. Well, I do second that motion. I would also like to have the other business, be our neighbor. I'm a local business, local CRA business, and we look forward to having other businesses, share with us this opportunity. So that's great news. Now, let me start over by just saying that, good evening, Mayor Grant, Vice Mayor Penserga, Commissioner Katz, Hay and Romulus, Director of the CRA, Mike Consignment. My name is Darius Bardales. I have been a City of Boynton Beach and CRA area resident for 17 years and the president of BDS Consulting Group since the year 2012. BDS Consulting Group is a professional engineering, surveying and mapping and planning firm. We submitted a letter of interest to purchase the property located at 1110 North Federal Highway in response to a CRA notice of intent to dispose of said property. We had expressed interest on this property a year prior to the posting of said notice of intent. We would like to purchase said CRA property to expand our business operations and hire more local employees. We're currently working on getting BDS certified as a Hobson certified business with the United States federal government, Small Business Administration. What is a Hobson? A Hobson is a federal program for small companies that operate and employ people in historically underutilized business zones. To qualify for this Hobson certification, the business office needs to be within a historically underutilized business zone. The Boynton Beach CRA property we would like to purchase meets this criterion since it is located within the Hobson area. The Hobson program fuels small business growth with a goal of awarding at least 3% of federal contract dollars to Hobson certified companies each year. A Hobson program certification requirement is to have at least 35% of our employees living within the Hobson area. It is very important for BDH to purchase this property for the following reasons: to qualify for the Hobson Business Certification, pursue United States federal projects. We have clients waiting for us to get certified for teaming opportunities for these federal projects, and also to hire employees that reside within the CRA area located within the Hobson area. This is a Hobson certification requirement, a must. And also to bring federal work to our Boynton Beach CRA area to support our local workforce, and in this manner contribute to revitalize our CRA neighborhoods. Also to expand present operations to meet client demand and to pursue more private and public sector engineering and surveying work throughout the state of Florida. We are currently maxed out our home-based business location and need to open an office within the Hobson area to hire local employees to work on projects we're invited to participate, but at the moment are unable to commit to because we need a dedicated office for our future employees to come to work to. We thank the City of Boynton Beach and the CRA for supporting local small businesses. We're looking forward to further discussing this opportunity with you. We thank you for your time, and we look forward to also working with other businesses, so we can make this happen. And so that this works for both of us and the city of Boynton Beach and the CRA. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Darius.
Thank you, sir.
Does the board have any questions before we move on to our next applicant? Hearing none, I'm going to unmute Samuel Rogatensky.
Hey, good evening, guys. How are you?
Doing well.
So what I'm hearing tonight is that there's new developments and that the city is able to take control of the corner piece. That's something that I didn't know about.
That is correct.
Okay, well, that's great. How long do you think it'll take till you guys hammer that out, get that done?
I'm hopefully to have the answer by next CRA meeting. The city moved forward with a foreclosure on an outstanding lien on that property, as the property owner did not want to maintain the property or put the property in compliance. So the city's attorney would have to give us information. You know, my preference would be to having the two applicants and then work, kind of what Darius is saying is working together so that we can both get you there on the site, and that way we can move forward, hopefully, with the developments of new businesses on that corner.
Okay, listen, I'm open to whatever. The only real question is, I guess, is from Ms. Doohy. How long do you think it'll take to get that foreclosure done? Because these things, you know how they go. Me being a lawyer and how these things roll.
No, she can't respond to that question.
Well, but I think more importantly, Mr. Rogatensky, if the board, and for the board's benefit, they could decide, I mean, it's up to them, of course, but other than the details of how the two buildings could somehow, be aligned together in a common wall shared by some type of fire rating or what have you, the timing of the second lot that we do not own trails to the lot that we do own. So it is conceivable that, let's say between now and the next meeting, we could come together with the three of us, if that's what the board so chooses, and you could potentially move on your way to develop your site with the understanding that these items, when the second property is developed, that you're basically agreeing to that principle of cross access, which we've talked about before, and how to make the best of both properties. Your design essentially does that already, I think, both designs, because there's only really one way to build on that lot. So I don't know, Tara could respond to this. I don't know that one is limited by the other, because we do own one currently, and we are working with the city now to have the other transfer.
Add that regarding that, the way we figured it out with Mr. Breeze is that in order for it to work, we needed to have 2.5 feet of landscape on each side. So let's say the church on one side would have to have 2.5 feet, and then we'd have to have 2.5 feet of landscape. Also in the back, also on the side. So if we're going to do something jointly with this new applicant, it would probably have to be done all together. We'd have to figure it out if you wanted to share a wall for that. Because we figured out how to do it on one piece of land without any. I would have to figure out if let's say I didn't have the 5 feet on the side with the corner piece, and I'd have to get it from the other side. Somewhere I have to get that 5 feet, 2.5 feet, 2.5 feet on each side. So if we're going to do something together with somebody else and we have to reassess, I don't think we could start with if you think we have to be connected by a wall.
Well, I don't mean it would require the other property to be transferred in full to the CRA before the decision could be moved forward on how to design that. That was my, I think we would spend the next, immediately start working with the city on how that is, how that's done. And remember the questions that you asked of the city were based on the one lot in play. So of course, if they're essentially joined together or the project changes, the requirement may change on the 2.5 feet in
Right.
between the two. So,
Right. So yeah, I mean, if
I'm just
again,
offering that to the board, you know.
I'm still not clear. So what do you want us to do? You want us to all meet and talk to me? You tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it. I'm not following.
So my proposal would be is that I'd like to take option 2 on both letters of intent and discuss our CRA board to work with the city of Boynton Beach to move forward with those 2 lots. And it's kind of up to you, WPPR and BDH to determine who's on the north side, who's on the south side. And with that, hopefully by the end of next meeting, we can move forward with a purchase and sale agreement for both businesses to be on that corner location.
Okay, fine. I'm all for it.
And so I'll request the motion from the CRA board to move forward with option 2 on both properties to see if we can create I know we can't do it because we don't own the property with the city, and so we'd have to.
Can I make a suggested? Can I make a suggested motion?
Yes.
I would make a motion to direct staff to negotiate with both submitters on whether an alternate arrangement other than what was proposed can be arranged, and table this item until such time as we can bring that back to you. Hopefully bring you back, we can table it till next month to bring you back an update. I just want to put the only process note aside from the foreclosure that I can actually answer is because we don't own the second property that we're discussing, we would also have to issue a notice of intent to dispose of that property, which would add a little bit more time to the process. We do not have to do that for the property that's currently under discussion. So I just want to put that process issue, but I think the motion can just be to table this item and send staff back with both submitters to discuss alternate options and bring it back next month.
Tara?
Yes.
Can the board decide which option they would like to be discussed in that time period during the tabling and then table the item? That way they're choosing a purchase option to be discussed with them that they prefer over another option, because that's certainly a detail of the acquisition that goes into that discussion. That would help us, I think.
Certainly.
So we can I would like to see if the board is willing to give consensus to the two different the proposals from the 2 developers. I've made it my position which one I liked more. And so if someone else from the CRA board would like to weigh in on which.
Chair.
Yes. I think Mike is asking which option from each purchaser. Is that what you're asking, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah.
So not to choose among the 2 purchasers or 2 potential purchasers, but the options.
Correct.
Yeah, I said I liked option 2 for both because it looks like we're going to be doing engineering services on adjacent parcels.
I'm not sure what option 2 for both was, but I'm in favor of allowing for both parties to converse with each other if that's what they seem to be willing to do, which is rare. I'm happy to hear that they're willing to work with each other. So let's do that. I like that option.
And with Mike, you the mediator.
It's a great story. I mean, really, it's a great story. Between the hot zone and the radio station, it's a great story. If we can pull it off.
Guys, the only issue I see is that if the foreclosure of the other piece takes 6 months, 9 months, a year, or if there's some opposition to it, this thing will just stall because we'll never be able to, who's building first and how are you building and you know what I mean?
Sam, it's already decided of we agreed to accept the property in lieu of continuing with the foreclosure lawsuit for the city commission. So the CRA staff will get you that information within the next month in the discussions.
Okay, great.
Board Member Hay?
I'd just like to ask the question to both of them. Either one of you guys under any kind of time constraint where you are?
I'm just in a time constraint. I have about 1 year and 4 months on my lease at 2755 South Federal. So I wanted to kind of just, obviously, I had a site plan ready, but obviously that'll change now. And we'll have to work together with PDH and figure it out. I think we can do it. I mean, if you guys are in the point now where the guys are already, giving you the land, I think we'll be fine. We'll just all.
Samuel, I'm also willing to work with you. So
yeah,
it looks
for
like
sure.
a good option. So let's get together and see how we can proceed. But yes, we do engineering services and surveying and mapping, which we would both need, and also a little bit of site planning, so we can help on that respect as well.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's make it happen.
We'll figure it out.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
All right. So
Okay, thank you.
Don't you love a win-win?
It sounds they call it a win-win scenario.
may I have that motion to table to next meeting and direct staff to discuss with both applicants and the city of Boynton Beach for disposal of the properties.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Good luck, guys.
Thank you, board.
Thanks.
Thank you, gentlemen.
So John,
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
I got a quick question. I see that, are we limited to 4.5 hours of our meeting?
No, Mayor, you're not, or Board Chair, you're not.
Okay, so I was looking at the dashboard and that's why.
Power through it.
All right. We are on
G.
consideration of a waiver to provide a flex space for a new neighborhood officer program office and community space in the Ocean Breeze East project.
Yes, board chair. I don't know if Tree was about to get on, but essentially the item before you is consideration of the location now for the neighborhood officer program office. As discussed earlier during the budget, the CRA board had entered into agreement with Centennial Management to provide flex space in the development of Ocean Breeze East Apartments that would be the future location for the neighborhood officer program office and other services provided by them. One of the things that I guess occurred during that negotiation is that you had a different police chief when the original contract was negotiated, and we did not have a RFP and a successful RFP response for the MLK corridor project as we do now. So this was essentially the option that was provided to Chief Gregory, and now we have a letter from the police department and Chief Gregory that in consideration of the fact that we now have the MLK corridor project online and progressing forward with funding and design, they would like to request that the board consider amending the agreement with, or it's really not an amendment, it's a waivering of a condition to provide for Centennial to provide that flex space in Ocean Breeze East. And then the second step, if you approve that or if you support the request from the police department, then the MLK corridor project would absorb the space into its 8,500 square feet of retail commercial space on the first floor. So the item before you now is to consider approval of a waiver to allow for the condition that Centennial provides you that space is waived, and they do not have to provide that space.
So I'd like to hear from the police chief what his vision is. If that's okay with the board.
Sure.
Chief Gregory.
Good evening, Mayor, or Board Chair and board members. Michael Gregory, Police Chief. Thank you for entertaining the letter that we submitted. As the CRA Director, Mike Simon, laid out the foundation of how we got here. Now, understanding that we're in a little bit different place than we were when this project was initially developed, the The construction project for MLK has been green light lit, as I can understand, and is moving forward. And we believe that that would be a more effective location for us to run a NOP office from, as opposed to this property over off Seacrest at the Ocean Breeze East. So that's the gist of it. Is we'd look to do the same, accomplish the same services, the same access, or try to increase access to the community. Actually, I foresee, just looking at the traffic patterns, pedestrian patterns, we probably see a little more pedestrian traffic, and we'd have more visibility and access to the community from the MLK corridor a little bit better than we would from the Ocean Breeze East project further south. So we're just trying to find a way to make it more accessible to the community, provide better service, and integrate a little bit along that corridor as part of that development.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. And so the issue that you have is that, you know, if we take 2,500 feet of our commercial space, that leaves us 6,000.
Board Chair, the amount of space that you provide the NOP is an issue between the CRA and the NOP program, and not Centennial. So I believe that space in the new location can be massaged to a number that works for both parties. This item just kind of eliminates Centennial's obligation. But I agree, that's a lot of space.
So the big question is that what does Centennial plan on doing with the space? Because I know that was part of the community benefits agreement that we had originally, and there is value to the space and the use of it, and so you don't necessarily want to give up, you know, something for nothing.
You could, I mean, I shouldn't speak for Tara, but there's no urgency to waive this, except that the CRA board, we're basically trying to design the interior space at the Ocean Breeze location. If the board feels that the MLK corridor location is a better location, then you could direct us to stop any redesign or interior design of that space and then you can negotiate with Centennial at a later date, unless they're on the phone now, what they will do and how that would all work.
Yeah, I'd like to not necessarily waive it, but to discuss at a later date.
Table that.
What Elizabeth, what Centennial would like to do with the location. And you know, the question is that you stated that it is a residential property, and so commercial use is not available. However, does that limit the fact that the city might have another function that goes on there? Or, you know, basically I want to know if the city or CRA can explore a portion of the space or all of the space for another use, or, you know, what is the Centennial going to use that property for, and the discussion of moving it to the new location up on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. So I'd like to have that discussion. So
Chair, I couldn't agree more with you. And so my first assumption is that they'll just make a larger community room, but I would like to hear from Centennial and see what else they can offer. And so I'll make a motion to table.
And with that motion, I think we would request the CRA board not move forward with any design of that space. So do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments?
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner Romulus, Board Member Romulus.
I think this just begs the question of how does this account for the budget item we were discussing with the amount that we had to commit towards developing that not office in the Ocean Breeze East site?
Yes, ma'am. It helps, Board Member Romulus, because we would certainly save funding in the new building if there is a use that the CRA or the city and Centennial could agree to in some portion of the space that Centennial built, right? We asked them to build this space and they did. We were going to pay for the interior build out. However, in the discussions I've had with Centennial, there are some uses that they could benefit from at least half of that square footage, which we would certainly save money if there was a reason to build out the other, 800 or 1,000 square feet. So it should lower the amount needed if you decide to build anything out at the Ocean Breeze East location. And we have the funding already available for the Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard location. So the budget is I think secured in this aspect. It would not be if you wanted to keep them in Ocean Breeze East, then we would have to decide a little bit more specifics. But if you are in agreement to relocate them to MLK, the budget is actually better off.
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Did you need a second?
I think we got a second.
Okay.
So seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to MLK Junior Boulevard Corridor Commercial Redevelopment and Affordable Multifamily Rental Apartment Project Update.
Yes, Board. We're just there this evening to provide you with an update on the project that is located within the MLK Corridor project being built by Centennial Management Corporation. As you know, the project has been fully funded. The Centennial is now working toward their underwriting timeline for site plan approvals and other conditions of approval to obtain the funding from the state. We have had several meetings with city staff, or they have, and certainly the CRA has been participating in them on the site plan. They have submitted a formal application for site plan, and the first review comments were done and due last week at Friday. So they are progressing at good pace, as they did with Ocean Breeze East, on getting that project underway. There are, for those of you who haven't driven by MLK Corridor in a little bit of time, there is a construction fence now around the entire perimeter of the project as they designed and you approved, with the exception of the Bell's parcel. And there is fill and dirt being moved there now. So there are mounds of dirt there for the future project. So I kind of consider it a little bit underway, even though the site plan hasn't been approved officially by the city, but there is progression. Their idea, of course, ideally would be to dovetail the close of Ocean Breeze East site and use those same, the same resources that build Ocean Breeze East and just move them north, in the next couple of months to start the MLK Corridor project. That's the update. And then the second item here was, of course, discussion about the NOP office potentially being located there. So both of those have been satisfied. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
All right. And so
hopefully I wasn't on mute that whole time.
Yeah, my question is that based upon the CRA board's previous comments in July, we have dedicated future tax dollars towards the project to build more affordable homes. In addition, we have the $1 million there in the MLK Corridor project, hopefully to work with the developer to find use to that, and maybe help build wealth. I know there are properties to the east on the north side that are vacant, that are not owned by the CRA or the developer, to see if we can move into discussions about building more along Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard at one time. And so that's kind of the direction that I would have to see, is that if the CRA board is willing to discuss in more land acquisition on MLK corridor, if that's possible. Or I guess the first question is that the use of the MLK corridor budget to help the community and the businesses there. So unless, does the board have any comments? I'm not hearing any.
Not at the moment, Chair.
All right, thank you. I always like to hear something. So
Okay.
moving on to the item 14I. Consideration of the
Sorry. Good evening, board. Bonnie Nicklin, Grants and Project Manager. CRA staff is requesting board approval on the fiscal year 2020-2021 Economic Development Grant Programs. As you know from earlier tonight, we had a very successful year this past year and looking forward to the success of the programs in the upcoming year. We are seeking direction with respect to the board's desire to continue the current 18-month rent reimbursement period for grantees under the 2021 grant programs, or return to the 12-month reimbursement period. The 18-month program was established in April in response to the COVID pandemic for any new business who submit an application prior to September 30th, that they would be extended an 18-month reimbursement. Staff also recommends continuing to process rent reimbursements on a monthly basis versus quarterly. We also added clarity regarding eligibility of convenience stores for facade-only improvements, as well as security camera improvements. And lastly, both grant applications include information on the city's new Inclusion Works Business Partner Program, which is a free program for businesses to participate in order to demonstrate their commitment to the American with Disabilities Act. And I'm here for any further discussion or questions.
Do we currently allow hotels or motels to use the economic development grants?
Yes, for facade improvements. Yes, sir, for the property improvement.
So I'd like to try to move them up to tier 1 status. Because, you know, at the bed and breakfast as well. Because we don't realize how much the state of Florida uses the bed tax until this year. And so what we can do in the CRA to help businesses that use bed tax or collect bed tax, I'm in favor of being able to increase the funding available to them. Does the board feel the same way, indifferent, or disagrees?
Chair, could you elaborate on your reasoning? I'm just trying to understand why this is necessary.
Well, for example, the inn at Boynton, the Homing Inn, the Rustic Hotel, the Tiki Hut, to do a big exterior facade, I don't believe the 25,000 is going to make a big dent in the amount of money needed to refurbish those types of locations. And it makes sense that the more they can charge for the room, the more they collect in tax. The more they collect in tax, the better it is for the city of Boynton Beach, because that's, you know, increasing the value for the visitors that are coming in. And that's kind of my reasoning behind it. It's that this is one of the biggest industries in the state of Florida, and we should be encouraging it the same way we do with the culinary industry.
That sounds sensible to me. And what are they currently now? What tier? Are they tier 3?
They are currently tier 2. They're for commercial facade only improvements. They fall under the other category, which is for the facade improvements.
And what is their limit at tier 2?
$25,000, 50% reimbursed up to the max of $25,000.
So I would need I think a second to amend.
Need a second?
Yes, please.
Second motion.
Thank you. Is there any other businesses that we want to include, exclude, raise up from tier 2 to tier 1 or tier 3 to tier 2?
Chair, there may be, but I was not prepared for that particular discussion. At this moment, none come to mind, but I may have in the near future.
Okay.
While we're on the topic, I know we tend to bring before us, like it's the board that has to discuss it, auto repair and auto mechanic shops. Is that still, why is that? Can I just understand reasoning from staff of why we have to approve those and have the board, I guess, make them conditional acceptances rather than just having them be part of this tiered program?
Bonnie, I'll answer that. Board member Romulus, that really was a decision that the board made, as far as the categories, just like when we reintroduced the tattoo salons being a conditional use, each year we provide these grant guidelines to you. There's little tweaks here and there. I honestly can't tell you the reasoning at the time that the board wanted to be able to review those applications coming in, but staff, I don't believe that I have any reason, nor has staff discussed any reason that we could see that if you wanted to change that, we don't have any opposition or find any reason to do that other than your own, desire to.
So I would make that change just to allow for auto shops and the similar, I guess, businesses to just be able to apply just like anybody else, because I mean, hey, we all need car services, so
Sure.
I don't see why we should discriminate against them and allow them to just be able to participate just like everybody else.
So, and Board Member Romulus, the reason why is because over the past 4 years, the economic development grants were once only for new businesses, and then we changed it here for existing businesses, and that's the reason why the CRA has been able to help spend so much money, is because we were able to prove the existing businesses, new businesses came, and because new businesses came, more existing businesses needed to improve. And so when we decided last year to include some of the ineligible businesses, we realized that when they had first started, the CRA board was very different than it is now. And so we feel that we shouldn't just hurt businesses we don't feel are, that people have different opinions on. And so, as you mentioned, everybody really drives a car here. So hopefully, with this auto services facilities, we're able to improve the quality of the types of businesses that are here in the CRA. So I will agree with your statement to include those for the tier 2 businesses.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So far, the proposed changes are to remove the auto uses from the board approval category and to move the hotel motel category business into a tier 1. Those are the proposed changes.
Yeah. And yeah,
Chair.
Yes.
I have a question, and I think it may be for staff or perhaps you. What was the original thinking behind how to categorize different businesses into these tiers? Is it that tier 1 have a greater multiplier effect, if you will? Is that the intention, or was there something else driving behind the rationale for the categorizations?
Yes, sir. I would say that that was a discussion by the board. At the time, also, restaurants were not opening as plentifully as they are now. I mean, the economy itself has changed, but it certainly does have a larger effect on a job market with the restaurant. So that was a consideration. The other is that restaurants in general, the build out is very expensive, you know, certainly over, let's say, a small interior office space. So we knew that they needed, the board felt that they needed additional funding to, you know, accomplish that, since they're such large projects. So it's really just a way of incentivizing particular uses that you as a board feel or there's support to encourage, you know, locating here in Boynton versus another city. It's really just simply a recognition of those types of effects that you mentioned.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So staff, do you have direction on the motion to amend for the businesses as stated?
We do. How was your feeling on the 8 leaving it at 12 months for rental assistance, or going to the 18-month that we were doing during COVID?
You know, for me, I'd say, you know what, I'm okay with going for another 6 months extension after the 12 months. However, I kind of would want a presentation. I'd like to know that they are, you know, if they don't, I'm not saying that they have to use our social media outreach program, but I kind of want to make sure that the businesses are doing well and that the landlord isn't just taking the CRA's money and the tenants not doing well. So I don't, you know, basically I'd like a presentation how their first year is, what we could do better, something in that sense. But that's me. If the CRA board feels differently.
I agree with that, because this COVID-19, we can be a little lenient, but by the same token, we need to kind of hold our feet to the fire to make sure that they're going in the right direction. So I have no problem with what you just stated.
Tara, do you need
So Michael, basically what we're saying is that if a business wants the additional 6 months rent reimbursement, that we will put them on old business and ask them to give us a presentation how their first year went, and you know, we will not be unreasonably withheld.
Right.
I think you're muted, Tara.
I am?
No, Tara.
Oh.
Sorry, thanks for something. I think what I would suggest is that you put that they can be approved for up to 12 months with the possibility for application of a 6-month extension at the discretion of the board.
I like that.
All right. And before we make a motion, I'm glad I saw someone asked a question. Zach Landsat said, hi, I'm buying an existing business in Boynton Beach, but a new owner, which as of now is not eligible for rent because I'm not expanding. Would you consider allowing me to use the rental grant? Can I speak for 1 or 2 minutes? Zach, I'll unmute your microphone. It says you're self-muted. Zach, are you there? Hello?
Board chair and board, if I need to help, I had a conversation so I can kind of propose his question if his audio doesn't work.
Okay, Bonnie.
Sure. So I spoke with Zach maybe a couple weeks ago. He is interested in purchasing an existing business in the CRA district. He would be purchasing as an existing business, but be the new owner and would continue that same business use. And he would like to apply for the rent grant. Under the current grant programs, he would not be eligible because existing businesses are only eligible to apply for rent if they are to expand more than 50% of their current square footage, or if they are being relocated due to redevelopment, which neither case applies for him. And that is his question.
I see. And so we changed it for exterior and interior facades, correct?
Correct. I did inform him he would, if he wanted to make changes to the property, he would be eligible for the property improvement grant, but under the current proposed rent grant, he would not be eligible as an existing business.
And
Without-
so that, as a new owner, I under. And so what if, so basically, let's say he changes it from Allstate to Allstate or Allstate 1, is then he would be eligible because it's considered a new business because he changed the name a little bit?
I don't know that I answer that question.
So basically, I kind of agree with it, is that if it's the same entity, we can't really differentiate between a new owner and an old owner. However, if it's a new business and once he buys the businesses, with the agency changes the name, I consider that a new business, not the same business. And so he's saying is that the Allstate business would be the same, but it would be a new owner of the agency. So it's kind of like if a new franchise moved into it as a tenant, a new owner of a franchise moved into the tenant, would we say no, even though it's a new owner and it's the same business? So Tara, I'm going to ask you that question.
Well, so by the words of the policy as stated, it would be at the same business. The problem you can run into if you change the words here, either way that you're suggesting, is that someone could simply change the name of their business that's been in existence for, not sell it, not change the name, just change the name to be, Mom and Pop 2 instead of Mom and Pop 1, and then become a new business pursuit. Or they could sell it from themselves to an LLC that they now own, which is a new owner, even though it's not a new business. So I don't think that that's something we can write the policy to address. If you wanted to make some sort of take the application and consider it based on all the circumstances, you could do that, but that of course opens the door to many more of those types of applications coming forward. So yeah. I, at this moment, can't think of a way to cleanly make the policy amends to deal with the situation without opening up a can of worms. That's not to say it can't be done, but right this second, I can't think of a way to get around that particular issue, unless you want to open it to existing businesses.
Yeah, and that's the aspect of it, is that just because someone buys a business into a business of the CRA that's existing, they don't necessarily get the rent reimbursement at the same location. If he was to move the location to another CRA location, I can understand that. But if everything stays the same and I guess just the business owner changes, that's kind of where we don't want to run into the risk of businesses just changing owners' names without actually changing ownership.
He could get the grant. He could buy the business and improve the exterior of the building, but he just wouldn't get the rent reimbursement part.
Right. So yeah, no, I think that's correctly written.
Easier to administer, for sure.
And because we don't want to allow people to just change businesses and get it, whether it's from one owner to another owner. But it's kind of like, let's say, because yeah, I think it's the same rental agreement. It's not necessarily a new rental agreement. Yeah. So Zach, I'd like to speak with you if you're available after the meeting or another day during the week, but I don't think that we can change the laws to accommodate or the application to accommodate your situation. So. And he said, okay, thank you. So do we have a motion and a second of the amended economic development application grant? Is that correct?
I think we were working on it, but I don't know that we actually got the motion. So if we could, I don't recall getting the motion. I think we agreed to the 18 months with a 6-month extension at the discretion of the board, moving hotels, motels, bed and breakfast to tier 1 status, moving auto repair to tier 2, and that was it. So if someone wants to make that
From
motion.
tier 2 to tier 1.
From tier 1, thank you.
Yeah, that's okay, good. That's what I have too, Tara.
What's the other thing to tier 1?
Sorry, I didn't hear you, Mayor.
Oh, what was the other item that's going into tier 1?
Hotels, motels. That was the other change. That was the third change.
Yeah, hotels, motels, and bed and breakfasts.
Yes.
Okay. Yep, I think we have it all. So may I have that motion to amend?
Discussion.
Yes.
So sorry to to do this. I really don't want to prolong this meeting anymore. But when we talk about bed and breakfasts, should we specify, you know, like between Airbnbs and stuff like that?
I think it's a commercial location.
Well, I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Yeah. No, a bed and breakfast is a commercial location where Airbnb is not.
Okay, just want to make sure that that's clearly distinguished.
Okay.
I still need the motion.
Yeah.
Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Last for old business, discussion regarding prevailing wage benefits and apprenticeship policies for CRA procurement and request for proposals.
Chair.
Yes.
In the interest of ensuring, you know, a discussion at an, I just want to say it's late in the evening and we've gone through a long agenda and I don't want to have this discussion necessarily on the back end and in the hours of the evening. So I'd request, I think we tabled it last time. But I'd request we table this one more time just to have it at an earlier point in the meeting versus 10 p.m. at night after 5 hours.
Thank you so much.
I agree.
Thank you, and I'll ask you to remind me to move it up on the agenda.
Yes, I was going to say that.
We'll take care of that.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. So I'll speak about the next, before we move forward with this new business item, I was looking at the tax deed sales, and there is a property in the CRA district. I spoke with the property owner and said, hey, you might want to buy your property, you pay the taxes on the property, otherwise it's going to go for sale. And I checked at the meeting and it's still available for sale on the clerk's website. The property is 412 Southeast 4th Street. It's right behind where our Kachina is on 4th Street. And I'd like to put that item for new business B so that we could put a max bid limit if it does go to auction.
Great. Very good.
So would somebody, I made the motion to consideration, so I guess Vice Chair, you'll see if anybody else wants to make a second on that.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Vice Chair, do you want to make a call for a vote?
I'm sorry, I had to step out. Could you just recap what just happened? I just came back.
No worries.
Would you like me to do it, Vice Chair? I mean, Mayor
Yes.
Grant?
Okay.
Terry, why don't you do it?
Yes.
I think the board chair was looking for you to call the vote on a motion to amend the agenda to add a new item for consideration of 412 Southeast 4th Street, which is potentially up for tax deed sale.
All right. We had a motion, right?
Yes.
And we had a second?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone oppose? The ayes carry. The
Thank you.
motions carry.
Gosh, so formal.
I feel a little lost there.
That's Ty.
I move out 5 minutes.
We were waiting for you to do that so we could put you on the spot at the last minute.
So item 15A is discussion regarding 407 Northeast 1st Street. This is I'll disclose that this is a former client of mine. I do not currently represent him in any legal matter. And as you know, also a former neighbor, and stated that the previous CRA executive director wanted to offer some money for his property. And I'll let the Michael to explain the value of the property, if there is any, and
Yes, sir.
go from there.
John, if you could pull up attachment 1, please. I think it would be helpful for the board. This property is located at 407 Northeast 1st Street on the attachment that you're seeing now. Thank you, John. The property is highlighted in red. This is an aged wooden structure, residential structure. We had an appraisal done. He approached the CRA in July about his idea of selling it, and maybe this is the time to do that. And we've had discussions with him before because of the location, obviously, in the redevelopment area and in close proximity to the Cottage District site, which you can see to the north. Currently, the CRA does not own property on either side of this individual property, the 407 property, but a property owner that you're familiar with, Brian Fitzpatrick, owns the vacant lot that well, I'm not circling anything. You can't see my mouse moving, but it would be the vacant lot to the north. And you know, the only real way that this property is any benefit to us is, I think, if we combine it with something else. Otherwise, you know, it's not something that we've targeted or identified as being, you know, an opportunity buy because we have the property adjacent. But certainly from a, you know, overall district improvement, it certainly could use some of that. It would not be something that we would want to resell to a first-time home buyer. Is not in any condition to do that, nor would I want the CRA to invest any money in rehabilitating the building. It's similar to the 211 property, but kind of more added on and what have you. It's a good sized lot, but it really could use a property next to it to go larger in redevelopment. They have zoned R2, so it could be multifamily given the right circumstance. And it appraised for $268,000. We have made no offer to the owner, although the owner said that the appraised value sounded great to him. So if the board is, I'm now here for questions or other thoughts from the board.
Weren't we talking about the acquisition of land and our budget, and wouldn't this be what's the drawback on this piece of property? I heard you say the adjacent property, but
well, board member, I was just pointing out that I wanted to make sure that the board was aware that this property is not owned by there's not a property owned by the CRA that is currently adjacent to this or connected to it. It is by itself as far as the CRA is concerned. Obviously, the proximity to a lot of our projects is obvious. So.
Okay.
I mean that you.
I don't.
Sorry.
I say we get, the good Lord is not making any more land, so I think we need to acquire it when we can, especially if if he's willing to go at market value or appraised value. Well, how do you feel? Is that reasonable? If you don't want to say what that is, if you feel it's reasonable?
I believe that he would accept appraised value, but we've made no, I mean, I certainly did not identify this as a property and say, boy, if I could get this back to the board for appraised value, that'd be great. I just said, I'll bring your request to entertain acquisition to the board and proceeded with an appraisal. And of course, I'm sure that it would be accurate to say that he liked that price. I didn't counter. I didn't, I wasn't sure how to take that from the board because I wasn't sure if it was something that you wanted to acquire. But I believe he will take 268.
Or maybe an opportunity to swap land later if we own that piece of property. Who knows?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. My thoughts is that it is next to the big vacant lot to the north.
The cottage district.
And with that, I believe that is an R3 lot.
R2. It's an R2 location.
Oh, the whole block is R2?
Yes, sir. I mean, it certainly makes sense from a redevelopment standpoint. Absolutely, for us.
So.
You've got the cottage district right there.
Yes,
it's right, almost adjacent. You got a block between them. So
maybe we could acquire the property to the south. I mean, certainly that I know what I would do once we determined whether to acquire it or not, how I would proceed, on your behalf and on behalf of the plan. That'd be easy for me to figure out. So really just need direction from the board.
But from what I see at least 3 or 4 other vacant properties in that area.
Yes, sir.
I could live with going for acquisition of it.
Okay, it's only a block north of Boynton Beach Boulevard too. I feel that's not always known to people when they see that from the air.
I just think I don't have anything to to sink my teeth into, but I think it's a strategic piece of property right now. I don't know why, just feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Chair, I have to agree. For all the reasons that's already been said, that this is a strategic purchase, I will support it.
I will support it.
All right. Do you have that motion?
So moved. So moved.
And Vice Chair, do you want to make a second?
Yes, that is my second.
And just to be clear, that's a motion to offer for sale up to the appraised value.
Up to appraised value, correct.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. And then I'm going to, take the screen back.
Yeah, I have an idea where it is, Board Chair, but if you can pull it up, that's great.
Yeah, I'm trying to get. So this is a very strategic location. Along the, was it proper on 4th Street, it's zoned C3 community commercial. It's almost a half an acre,
Yes.
and there is no improvement on it. So the appraised value is 195,000. And so that's why I would suggest that we go up to the 200,000 as a max bid for the property.
The extra 5,000.
If I may, that we currently have the ability to go to 250,000 in our tax deed account with the county, and if it got into that type of a situation, I mean, this is a key property for us. So we just consider you're just going to pay 268 for the previous property. I would suggest, again,
Right.
they may pay the tax deed and we won't have a discussion, but
Yeah.
if it does go to the steps, then
Gotcha.
Correct.
That's good enough for me.
So yeah, thank you, Executive Director. Here's the tax deed application and that information as well.
okay, great. So did the amount change from 200 to higher?
Yes, I believe that Board Member Hayes making the motion for
Okay, very good.
250,
Thank you.
the max amount. All right. Do I have a second? All those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 All right.
Great.
All those
Thank you.
opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. All right, John, is there anything else?
Don't come up with anything, John.
Thank you, board and staff. It was a good meeting. It was long, but we accomplished a lot of items. Thank you.
All right. That's it. So any final comments before we end?
Is John not going to read us out?
Here.
He's asleep.
I'm ready when you're ready. Okay, here we go. As a reminder,
John, I've
Wake
got
up,
one-
John. Earth
John,
to
I've got
John.
one question real quick. Chair,
Yes,
everybody hear
Board
me?
Member Katz.
If nobody objects, can we direct executive director and staff to reach out to David Camalier and his representatives to get any sort of status update on whether or not they have found or are close to finding a suitor for their property on the east side of Federal? Because I know, Mayor, you had mentioned two thoughts that I actually had too with relationship to some of these properties on Federal. One, potential parking on the east side if nothing's going to be done anytime soon, and two, the property on the west side where the ice cream parlor currently exists. I'd like to know if we can, as early as possible, if they think that they're going to be selling the Davy Camalier property, and if not, you know, it's something that I would like to do is engage them on those two items to see if there's something that could be struck relative to what we're doing on the west side at 115 North Federal.
No objection
All right,
from me.
That's fine.
agree.
I've got that.
I agree with that, and I'd
I
like
agree.
to maybe just add on to that as well, if we can get an update from the Dalmeda development, that might be nice as well.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you ready for me?
Yes, we are.
Okay, as a reminder, a recorded version of this session will be posted to the CRA's YouTube channel. Links to that channel are available on the CRA's website at boyntonbeachcra.com. This concludes today's meeting. On behalf of Board Chair Stephen Grant, all of our board members, the CRA director, and CRA staff, thank you for attending tonight's meeting. Be safe and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.